we're given a choice. Throw the ball at the couple or at the announcer. By the way, there is a right answer here. No game is perfect, but some sure come really close. And if you've played those games before, chances are you at least mildly understand where people are coming from by referring to games as perfect. And while I certainly understand and empathize with the idea of calling a video game perfect, or really any piece of art perfect, I want to add a big old asterisk to that. The word but. It's a perfect game, but. A powerful phrase, and one I've talked about on this channel before in detail. Basically, it's a masterpiece, but like any subjective art form, it still has its issues. So I took Wikipedia's list of video games considered the best, which cross-references the highest rated games from over 50 different publications ranging from 1971 to 2023. Then I threw them onto this big ass wheel, agreed to myself that I will play whatever it lands on to completion, and talk about the reasons why it's earned its reputation as being the greatest, but also its weaker areas, the flaws that keep it from being truly flawless. Welcome to It's a Perfect Game But. So like I mentioned before, I'm going to be playing the entirety of this game, so if you've ever been interested in playing this game but haven't, or if you've only heard about it and been curious to find out more, stick around and I'll be painting a very complete picture for you. Before we spin this wheel, please give my channel a like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll come over there and give you a little kiss on the forehead. If you like gaming content, I think you'll enjoy my channel. So yeah, drop me a little like and subscribe. But anyway, without further ado, let's spin this wheel. Yeah, there we go. And we have Bioshock Infinite. Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt. The 9 words at the very core of 2013's critically acclaimed Bioshock Infinite. What a goddamn game. For anybody who doesn't remember, wasn't around, or wasn't even born yet, the third and final game in the absolute monolith of the Bioshock franchise was Bioshock Infinite. Bioshock as a franchise essentially changed the way video games could be made, could be analyzed, could be experienced by the player. When Bioshock 1 was released, it featured a combination of fluid first-person combat with upgradable weaponry, its own sci-fi magic system called plasmids, a creepy, surreal, dank, dark, underwater dystopian 1960s Art Deco atmosphere, and a rich, heavily Ayn Rand-inspired story told through a combination of gameplay and environmental elements with minimal cutscenes, and that toyed with the very idea of what it means to play a video game. This all combined to create a game that was a symphony of elements that, simply put, just worked. It's really not a stretch to say that in the history of video games there is a before Bioshock and an after Bioshock. It's like the Mona Lisa of video games. After a sequel that was considered a little bit middling, still good, but just kind of more of the same but less groundbreaking, the developer, now known as Irrational Games, went back to the drawing board for the third installment. Moving away from the underwater city of Rapture and the Randian ethos of the first 2 games, they opted instead for something different, something quite opposite. The first trailer was released in 2010, and if you were there for that, it was something special. No more underwater city of Rapture, no more dark blues and greens, no more bathyspheres and skyscrapers. A city in the sky, a timeline not of the 1960s but of the 1900s, a bright floating skyline of sunbathed American flags and giant billboards spouting some nonsense about the citizens' holy duty. This was not Bioshock. This was Bioshock Infinite. But at its core, it somehow was still undeniably Bioshock. A large hand appears coming out of the darkness, throwing the protagonist out of a window. Not unlike the big daddies of the first 2 games. Supernatural abilities that save the protagonist from falling to his death. Again, not unlike the plasmids of the first 2 Bioshocks. A female character that clearly holds some sort of significance to the plot, not unlike the Little Sisters of Rapture. The magnitude of hype surrounding this game and the days, the months, the years leading up to its release was nothing short of monumental. A fantastic game through and through, as you will shortly see when I play through it and bust it down. In its release, it was considered one of the greatest games ever made and a shining example of games as an art form, not unlike the original Bioshocks released 5 years prior, and it held this stellar reputation within the pantheon of tentpole video game releases for years, until something kind of strange happened. Or not strange at all if you've spent any any amount of time on the internet. Game-playing audiences in online spheres would eventually turn on the game. And you may find that a lot of contemporary gamers actually have a lot more negative things to say about Infinite than positive ones. Certainly a far cry from the unanimous praise that it received on release and in the years following. But why? What happened to make people remember such a critically acclaimed game with disdain instead of fondness? Are contemporary complaints valid? Or is it just the internet hating on something beloved because that's just what the internet does? Well, let's play it and find out. So right off the bat, the main menu conveys the vibe of the game to a T. It immediately establishes a bright and sunny atmosphere, the camera zooms into a sign that warps into the menu selection, and in the background is another sign telling us that the game takes place in 1912. I choose hard mode because this isn't my first FPS rodeo, and just like that, we're off. I gotta say, even this initial loading screen does such a great job conveying what we should expect going into this adventure. Bright and saturated American-themed metals and cloth that tear and rust and desaturate as ominous music slowly fades into the background. And then...
Booker, are you afraid of God?
No. But I'm afraid of you.
The mind of the subject will desperately struggle to create memories where none exist. Barriers to transdimensional travel. R. Lutece, 1889. An interesting quote to start the game off with, but with no further context at the moment, we'll just bury this in the back of our minds for now. Finally, the game proper starts. We find ourselves in a rowboat on our way to a lighthouse in the distance, accompanied by two strangers in raincoats, yapping about the tedium of rowing, and some quick and vague comments on previous failed experiments. We're handed a box containing a pistol and a picture of a girl with the words, "Bring to New York unharmed." Alright, a tangible goal right at the beginning of the game. We're not wasting any time. Parting ways with these strangers, we approach the lighthouse door to be met with another note, this time bloodied. DeWitt, bring us the girl and wipe away the debt. This is your last chance. We're in debt to somebody dangerous, clearly willing to use violence to get that debt paid. Entering the lighthouse, we're met with a basin and a sign clearly indicating some sort of religious proclivities. But whatever, I mean, it was 1912, that's nothing too out of the ordinary there. What is out of the ordinary, though, is the dead body on one of the upper floors with another bloodied sign saying, "Don't disappoint us," attached to its torso. So naturally, we steal his money and continue up to the roof of the lighthouse where we encounter a door. After entering the code given to us by the strangers on the rowboat, we're met with a series of some of the most visually striking moments I've ever seen in a video game. The entire sky over the stormy main ocean begins glowing red. The doors open to reveal a chair that locks us into place. We tilt backwards, losing our pistol in the process, blast off into the dreary gray sky, and then...
Hallelujah.
Welcome to Columbia. Full disclosure, this is not my first time playing this game. I was one of those people eagerly awaiting its release back in 2013, but despite the fact that I haven't played it in over a decade, this singular moment, the introduction of Columbia, has stayed with me throughout all of these years. The music, the visuals of this sprawling, flying metropolis with a giant winged monument in the middle, nestled in between clouds and zeppelins alike. It's a breathtaking moment. It's beautifully crafted, and I say this with absolutely no hyperbole whatsoever. This very well may be my favorite moment in all of video games. Upon landing, we're immediately met with some really intense Christian iconography. Stained glass windows depicting Columbia as distinctly heavenly, quotes speaking of prophets and drowning in flame the mountains of man. And finally, a baptism that we're forced to engage in to get into the city. So we accept, and the priest, straight up just drowns us. But when we awake, we're no longer in Columbia. We're sleeping on the desk of a dingy little office with a name on the door, Booker DeWitt. Ominous voices demand that Booker bring them the girl and wipe away the debt. And when we go to open the door, we're met with the disturbing visual of Columbia dropping bombs on a modern-day New York City, drowning in flame the mountains of man indeed. We wake up back in Colombia underneath statues of the founding fathers of the United States, and it's here where the environmental storytelling of Bioshock Infinite really begins to hit its stride. From what we've seen so far, there's clearly a very strong sense of religion in Colombia, but these statues demonstrate that the city's religious inclinations go way further than your typical early 20th century God-fearing American city. There are people literally praying to statues of the founding fathers of America, who themselves are portrayed as saints. The city isn't just devoutly religious to God, the city is devoutly religious to the concept of America as well. But its most devoted zealotry is reserved for Colombia's enigmatic founder and leader, Comstock. Zachary Hill Comstock is touted by the citizens of Colombia as their savior, God's chosen one that will deliver them from the evils of the lands underneath Colombia. But they also describe him as a future-seeing prophet. As we'll soon come to find out though, there does actually seem to be a grain of truth to this. We're given a new mission, locate the Statue of Columbia, so onwards we go. As we explore the forward path that the game has laid out for us, the city at a glance seems honestly really nice. Children are playing, businesses are thriving, people are happy and talking amongst one another. There's a hot dog stand, people picnicking, a clothing store called Hudson's. Hey, that's my name. There are a few things that are strange though. There are repeated mentions of the city's miracle child, anachronistic songs that absolutely could not exist in 1912, like this barbershop rendition of Beach Boys' God Only Knows, which I cannot play in this video without getting copyright struck, but you should check it out somewhere else because it is truly so well done. And multiple mentions of Colombia's enemy, the false shepherd, with the mark of AD on the back of his hand. By now, some eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed that Booker has that very mark on his hand. Just like that, Booker is no longer operating under the guise of a tourist on a mission. He's public enemy number 1. And he just got here. We occasionally hear some local gossip about a detestable organization called the Vox Populi, and other people being, well, pretty racist. Then I realized that so far, we've really only seen white people throughout the city. And then I think back to the rampant Americanism, the deification of the Founding Fathers, and the fact that this game takes place in 1912, and that's not a very good recipe. We're delivered a telegram from someone named Lutece, warning Booker not to choose number 77. We don't know what that means just yet, so onwards we go. Approaching a carnival, we're given a really tastefully handled tutorial into the game's combat systems. Disguised as playing fair games, we operate multiple guns we'll come across during the early sections of the game, as well as a brief test of multiple supernatural abilities called tonics. They're also referred to as vigors, so I'll be using those two terms interchangeably throughout this video. For now, they let us temporarily test out a telekinesis tonic before sending us on our way with our first permanent tonic, Possession, which lets us control motorized combat robots, hack vending machines for cheaper prices, and eventually lets us mind control human enemies to fight on our behalf. Really quickly, I have to shout out the tonic tutorials in this game. They really committed to the turn of the century World's Fair type aesthetic. The early film Nickelodeon style era tutorials fit the game's aesthetic perfectly. Actual real world Nickelodeon movie theaters, not like Nickelodeon. As we leave, we're encountered by two strangers asking us to flip a coin. When it lands heads, it's revealed that this is the 123rd time that their coin has flipped heads in a row. Extremely unlikely, very absurd, but not impossible, I guess. We continue on and come across a sign for a large bird-like creature called the songbird that's touted as some sort of protector. Two nearby children sing a nursery rhyme about the songbird escorting bad children to their grave. Is the songbird just a Columbia boogeyman or something real? We find a cop bragging to a friend about how his division got some sort of wrist-mounted railway attachment machine called a skyhook that lets them more effectively fight the Vox Populi somehow. There's that name again, the Vox Populi. Now, up until this point, the game hasn't really let off the leash just yet. We're about 30 minutes in, and so far the game's just been about building atmosphere, providing environmental clues about the nature of our adventure to come, introducing us to Colombia and the ideas and concepts that come with it, and letting us dabble with them, but not play with them quite yet. Until the raffle. As we approach the Columbia raffle, we're singled out in the crowd and told to draw a number. Lo and behold, Booker draws the winning number, 77. The very same number the mysterious letter from Lutece told us not to draw. And in this exact moment, Columbia's beautiful golden mask melts away into the gutter. The prize for winning the raffle is the chance to throw a baseball at an interracial couple begging for mercy, bound at the hands to an extremely racist backdrop. We're given a choice: throw the ball at the couple or at the announcer. By the way, there is a right answer here. But right as we're about to throw the ball at the announcer, a cop notices the AD symbol on our hand, the symbol of the false shepherd. The entire raffle turns on us. Booker smashes a cop's face into another skyhook. We steal it for ourselves. A heads-up display appears on screen, and just like that, the leash is off. We fight our way through waves of policemen armed with nothing but the skyhook until we find a pistol and a vending machine that allows us to upgrade vigors. Up until this point, I've been scrounging up every last cent I can find, so I'm able to afford a possession upgrade, giving us the ability to now cast it on humans instead of just machinery. Useful. Fighting forward, we encounter our first brute-type enemy, the Fireman. The Fireman has an incendiary grenade-type vigor called Devil's Kiss. When using possession, whoever's under your command won't attack you and will instead attack others on your behalf before turning their gun on themselves. Now, unfortunately, brutes won't take themselves out, and possession lasts for a fraction of the amount of time that it does on weaker enemies. But that's okay, we don't need a lot of time. I cast possession on the Fireman, and as he's under my spell and not attacking me, I unload everything I have on him. I get a message saying not to damage my allies, but fuck this guy, I don't care. I dump multiple pistol rounds into him and he explodes, dropping the Devil's Kiss vigor for myself. In a collective 15 minutes, we've gone from exploring this beautiful but profoundly racist and seedy city to grabbing 2 new vigors, a pistol, and a skyhook. Very sick. We continue on to a restaurant called the Blue Ribbon and for the first time are given the prompt to leave the area. Bioshock Infinite's way of telling you that past this point, your current chapter is over. If you take a close look at this loading screen, which will be the same loading screen that'll be happening for the rest of the game now, we actually get a lot of really good lore as to who we're playing as. Since the entire game is first person, we haven't really seen what Booker looks like yet. There have been reflections here and there so far, but this portrait is the very first time that we see what he looks like. We can also see that he was a Pinkerton agent. For those that don't know, the Pinkertons were a privatized security/detective agency started in the mid-1800s that gained a reputation for effectively shutting down a ton of labor unions and just generally being really bad people. They were literally just goons for hire. Think a modern-day mercenary company. Though the height of their usage was in the late 1800s, usually by corporations looking to bust unions, they're actually still around today and still causing trouble. Even as recently as 2023, Wizards of the Coast hired Pinkertons to retrieve an unreleased set of Magic the Gathering cards that were sent to a YouTuber's house by accident. They went to a YouTuber's house to threaten him over Magic cards. That's who the Pinkertons are. That's who Booker is. Basically, it's on site for the Pinkertons, fuck them. But I digress. We now have even more information as to who Booker is. He's a sleazy, gambling former Pinkerton in a ton of debt to violent, deranged people who clearly knows his way around extreme violence and is for some reason assumed, maybe even correctly, to be some sort of devil-like figure by a flying city he's never even been to. He also just slaughtered like 75 cops. As we begin the next chapter, we once again meet the mysterious strangers in the Blue Ribbon. They give us a strange gold potion that grants us an external magnetic repulsive field. Or in gaming terms, we have rechargeable shields now, which is very, very useful. We leave the restaurant and are given our first opportunity to use the skyhook for its intended purpose. We highlight a dedicated grapple point and fly over to it. Now you might be saying, holy shit, Booker can really jump. Don't worry, there's an in-universe explanation for that.
Damn hook must be magnetized.
See, during our adventures throughout Columbia so far, we found out that the giant winged statue in the middle of the city is called Monument Island, and that there are living quarters inside of it, where the girl that we're looking for lives. So we fight through more of Columbia, searching for the path there, taking us to the gates of a gothic and depressing looking doorway, the Fraternal Order of the Raven. We enter and the sun-washed, brightly lit avenues of Columbia are replaced by shadows, dim light posts, and the ever-present threat of of crows all around us. As we enter, we're greeted by a giant statue, this time not of America's founding fathers, but instead John Wilkes Booth, the assassin of Abraham Lincoln. But why would this organization, who exists in a city so deeply entrenched in the throes of American exceptionalism, revere the murderer of one of America's most fondly remembered presidents? Well, think about everything that we've seen. When you keep in mind the deeply rooted racism that permeates through every facet of this false utopia, it's not at all shocking that they would deify the man who assassinated the US president best known for abolishing slavery. Then you walk a little further into the building and see this painting portraying Abe Lincoln as a devil and Booth as a saint, and yeah, right on the money. They're not just racist, they're like extra super duper racist. Continuing through this building, we come across more enemies. Now up until this point, I haven't really been in any real danger. I'm playing on hard mode, but it's been, quite frankly, a really easy game so far. No close calls. But the Fraternal Order of the Raven is the game's first real difficulty spike. It's the first time I almost die and have to play as smart as possible, fully utilizing any cover I can find and all of my vigor so far. Enemies are starting to become relentless. In the midst of battle, I run into a random room to find some ammo and cover, and come across this potion that lets you boost one of 3 stats: health, shield, or vigor. I start with shield since that bar is like pathetically small, and continue blasting my way through this joint. After all the enemies are taken out, I continue through the building and reach a point where the game starts throwing a lot of health, ammo, and upgrades at me. Also vigor ammo, which are called salts. Now, when a game starts throwing a bunch of resources at you, that's generally a sign of things to come. And it's also around this time I'm thinking to myself, what's with all the crows? Why is this building called the Fraternal Order of the Raven? What's all that about? Well, I'd like to introduce you to our next brute enemy, the Zealot of the Lady. These zealots look like clansmen wearing black instead of white, who wield control over crows and can teleport, absolutely tanking gunshots while shooting goddamn flying rats in my face. This enemy is a beast to take out in my current state. But after enough gunshots and Devil's Kiss grenades, he finally goes down and drops the Murder of Crows Vigor, allowing me to shoot crows at enemies to temporarily stun them. Fighting through the rest of the building, I make my way outside and head to the gondola station where I should be able to hitch a ride to Monument Island. At this moment, I'm starting to feel the need to address something with this game. It's now getting to the point where I'm no longer in the beginning of the game. It's still early, but we're officially in the game now. And I'm noticing that it follows a very specific formula. Give you a goal, walk towards that goal. Enter a building or a large outdoor combat arena, fight. Continue walking towards that goal, rinse, repeat. Now, in a lesser game, this formula might get a little bit tedious and boring, but honestly, I'm not complaining. The gunplay in this game feels really good, the movement is snappy, the vigors are creative and add a really fun bit of chaos to the gameplay, and the setting is just unmatched. Now, I can see how some people might complain about the whole walk somewhere, enter a shooting gallery, continue walking gameplay loop, but in my opinion, it works really effectively here. However, from a making a YouTube video point of view, it does mean that there will be sections in this video where I reduce large chunks of gameplay to just and then I fought through the enemies, because there isn't really any further environmental or gameplay or narrative elements to comment on in those sections. Anyway, and then I fight through enemies in the gondola station and find out the gondolas are closed. Luckily, we have our trusty skyhook, and now we can fully utilize what is one of Bioshock Infinite's most enduring legacies: the Skyline system. The Skylines are basically airborne roller coaster tracks designed to move cargo, passenger trains, and when needed, individual people from one floating section of the city to another, and was a huge selling point in the promotion of this game. Going on these roller coaster rides from one platform to the next to aid in combat is truly one of Bioshock Infinite's finest spectacles. We make our way to the higher reaches of the city and are addressed by the leader of Columbia, Comstock, directly.
I know why you've come, false shepherd. I see every sin that blackens your soul. Wounded knee, the Pinkertons, the drinking, the gambling, and of course, Anna. And now, to repay a debt, you've come from my land. Not all debts can be repaid, Booker.
You don't know me, pal.
Prophecy is my business, Mr. DeWitt. As blood is yours.
So this guy knows who we are and why we've come, and even seems to know a great deal about Booker's history, his past in the Pinkertons, his participation in the Wounded Knee massacre, and the existence of someone close to him named Anna. Well, if he knows Booker so well, then he should also be aware that Booker isn't exactly one to suffer fools. We hop into Comstock's nearby Zeppelin, blasting anybody who stands in our way, before reaching the control room where an innocent little nun, just praying to Comstock, minding her own, fucking sets herself and the entire blimp on fire. Booker jumps ship where he very fortunately lands on a skyline that takes him straight to Monument Island. Monument Island is littered with caution signs warning against approaching this specimen and ensuring a mandatory 12-hour quarantine after each exposure. The lockers and equipment indicate that this isn't just some fancy apartment that this girl lives in. This is a full research facility where this girl has been monitored for her entire life. Another sign indicating an even more intense quarantine being required past this point is attributed to Chief Scientist Lutece, the same name of the person that warned us of the raffle number. Deeper still into Monument Island, we encounter machines that alter certain items' characteristics, like changing the color of a book or a teddy bear. Footage is found of this girl's repeated attempts to pick the locks in her living quarters, of her studying code breaking, of her painting and singing, until we come across a lever that reveals her on the other end of a one-way mirror. Booker spies on her just living her life, and she's just a regular person, or at least as regular of a person as you can be under these circumstances, until she wanders over to a painting that she made of the Eiffel Tower.
Whoa!
Was that a movie theater playing Return of the Jedi? And I had to silence it because of, copyrights, but Tears for Fears' Everybody Wants to Rule the World was also faintly playing in the background. This girl, whoever she is, can open up rifts through space-time. Now, it's important to note that Bioshock as a series is really well known for its environmental storytelling. And while there are cutscenes in all of these games that progress the story, the major bulk of world building and lore is provided through voice recordings that you find throughout your journey, audio diaries in the first two Bioshock games, and voxophones in Bioshock Infinite. These voxophones can come from characters as minor as the janitor of Monument Island to ones as major as Comstock himself, and in this moment, we've come across the voxophone of one Rosalind Lutece. That's that name yet again, Lutece. Not only the one who warned us against picking number 77 at the raffle with that telegram, but also the lead scientist of whatever is going on here at Monument Island.
What makes the girl different? I suspect it has less to do with what she is, and rather more with what she is not. A small part of her remains from where she came. It would seem the universe does not like its peas mixed with its porridge.
And now that we've heard her voice, we know that it's the very same woman that's been a part of the duo who have been following us the entire game so far. In the rowboat, during the coin flip, giving us the shield. That's been Lutece this whole time. But who is she? And how is she everywhere? And who is the man with her? We work our way through Monument Island looking for a way inside of her quarters when Booker saves us some time and effort. Good going, Booker.
Hello. Hey! Knock it off! Stop it! Will you stop it? Not here to hurt you.
Who are you?
My name is DeWitt. I'm a friend. I come to get you out of here.
Get away!
After some formal introductions and Booker reassuring her that he's there to help her escape, the newly introduced Elizabeth immediately goes into panic mode after a nearby statue starts playing music. The walls begin caving in around them. Whatever this is, it's huge and it's clear that they don't stand a chance. Giant claw marks appear in the thick metal walls that surround them. As they enter an elevator, a giant bird's mechanical eye peers into the shaft. Songbird isn't just a myth or a nursery rhyme or a boogeyman. He's real real, and he does not want Elizabeth to escape. Getting pushed down by an opposing elevator, Booker and Elizabeth use this chance to escape to the top of Monument Island. But a silly little elevator isn't enough to take care of Songbird. He pushes them both off of Monument Island into a free fall, where once again Booker falls conveniently onto a skyline. Only this time, he's not so lucky. As the top half of Monument Island falls apart in the distance, a stray piece of debris damages the skyline, sending both Booker and Elizabeth into a free fall once again. Whoa, a weakness to water. That's really useful. I'm sure Booker would be stoked to see that if he wasn't drowning. Elizabeth gets Booker on his feet again when she hears music in the distance and runs off to go check it out. Booker pulls her away from her first ever experience with live music, with dancing, with really the outside world in general, by telling her that he's taking her to Paris, a place it's made very apparent that she's dreamt of her entire life. So off the two go, to board the First Lady of Colombia's airship and escape from the city under the false pretense of taking Elizabeth to France, while both the player and Booker know full well he's taking her to New York to sell her in exchange for paid-off gambling debts. I would just like to reiterate here that Booker DeWitt is a bad person. Leaving the beach, we once again encounter Lutece and her companion, who offer Elizabeth a choice in choker pendant, the bird or the cage. Elizabeth seems so sweet, and I feel like she's had her fill of cages for one lifetime, so I choose the bird and we press on. A police checkpoint blocks our path forward, so we try to find another way around, but are met with a locked door. Damn. But wait, Elizabeth spent her entire life honing her lockpicking abilities to try and escape from her prison. She might not have been able to lockpick her way out of a maximum security scientific facility, but a simple door like this is child's play. As we press on through the building, the NPCs surrounding us start behaving really strangely.
These shoes sure could benefit from a shine.
Guess I haven't paid much attention.
Have you got sauerkraut?
Sauerkraut? I guess so.
I'll take, one, please. How much?
1 silver eagle.
Whereas on the beach and immediately afterwards, conversations seemed natural and normal. Now they're disjointed, like everybody is trying to force small talk without actually wanting to talk to one another. We enter the ticketing room to get entry onto the airship, and people stop talking altogether. An air of unease fills the room. People are staring at us. Save for the ticket counter clerk talking on the phone, you could hear a pin drop.
I got it. I'll ring you back once the matter's in hand.
I don't like this.
Yeah, send in the bird. We're ready to execute.
Excuse me, can I get some help here?
Certainly, sir. Sorry about the wait!
What are you doing? Get the girl! Get off of me!
Elizabeth gets trapped on the other side of an emergency gate, and we start blasting. Another difficulty spike. This combat section is honestly pretty difficult, and I get really damn close to dying multiple times. But we clutch it up and clear the room. Chasing down Elizabeth, she demands we stay away from her, but why? We just fought for her survival. Booker got stabbed through the hand for her. What is going on? See, at this point, Booker is used to seeing violence. It's dominated his life for decades. And from a meta-narrative perspective, we, the players, are also very used to seeing violence. Not just from everything in Bioshock Infinite that we've seen up until this point, but from every game we've ever played, pretty much. So when Elizabeth tenses up and is disgusted with the amount of violence that just occurred right before her very eyes, it takes a second for both us and Booker to realize that, yeah, from a regular person's perspective, what just happened in front of her very eyes is terrifying, traumatizing even. Sure, it was us or them, but that doesn't mean it wasn't still a horror show of a bloodbath to occur right in front of somebody who has lived a life completely devoid of violence. In my opinion, this is one of the most underrated moments in Bioshock Infinite that doesn't really get talked about in the greater Bioshock conversation. In typical Bioshock fashion, the game plays around with the expectation of the players themselves. Sure, it might not be as overt as Bioshock 1, where the game forces the player to question why we blindly follow orders that gameplay gives us. But it's a small, subtle moment that forces the player to question our own notions of the level of violence that we deem acceptable and are used to. Are we as desensitized as Booker is? Despite how horrible the violence is to witness, Booker gives her a harsh dose of reality. If they want to escape the city alive, Elizabeth has a simple choice: accept the fact that she'll be seeing and engaging with a lot more violence before their adventure is done, or get captured again. She chooses to accept the violence, offers to help patch up Booker when he's wounded, and even volunteers to scavenge for useful items while he's fighting. After all, we're escorting her to safety. It's the least she can do, right? Let's quickly talk about the E word. Escorting, a dirty word in video games. Before the game came out, when it was revealed that there would be a really heavy emphasis on escorting Elizabeth out of Columbia, many people had flashbacks to characters like Ashley from Resident Evil 4. Escort missions are almost never a good thing, and people were worried that Elizabeth would need to be protected from harm to make it through the game. But this was so far from what we got. Elizabeth has no health bar, and she doesn't need to be protected at all. She can't be harmed, she can't be kidnapped by the enemy. She is purely advantageous from a mechanical standpoint. And make no mistake, the Elizabeth scavenging mechanic is unbelievably useful. Not only will she provide money, ammo, and salts at various intervals throughout gameplay, but while you're locked in the short catching animation when she tosses something at you, you get iframes. You'll stop taking damage and become invincible until the animation is done playing. And while this may only be a few seconds at a time, these few seconds of iframes can be the difference between life and death, especially during later parts of the game where we're introduced to much tougher enemies. We fight through the next area, and the mechanism powering the gondola to get to the First Lady's airship blows a fuse and needs to be fixed. Unfortunately, it only runs on shock jockey, an electricity vigor that we don't have. A nearby sign tells us that it can be found at a wartime museum called the Hall of Heroes. Well shit, where's that at?
Well, that's convenient.
It really is, Booker. We take the elevator leading to the museum when the elevator also blows a fuse. Columbia's wiring fucking sucks. While Booker tries fixing it, Elizabeth has a better idea and opens the same type of portal we saw her opening at Monument Island, which she calls a tear. She reveals that when she was a kid, she was able to open personal and customizable tears wherever and whenever she wanted, but for some reason this ability was weakened with age, and now she can only extend small ones that already exist in fixed locations. Entering the Hall of Heroes, we stumble across our next vigor, Bucking Bronco, which launches enemies into the air to be shot like fish in a barrel. Now that we're a couple vigors deep, I'm starting to realize a feeling brewing inside of me. Probably my first real narrative complaint of the game so far. Vigors and their adjacent plasmids from the first two Bioshock games are a major selling point for the Bioshock franchise. It's the predominant offensive gameplay mechanic that sets Bioshock apart from other first-person shooters mechanically. How you use your vigors and adjacent plasmids in conjunction with your traditional weaponry firmly establishes an elevated fantastical realm. And from a narrative standpoint, the existence of these abilities also has an effect on the in-universe setting of the games as well. Numerous elements of Columbia literally run on these vigors, as we just saw with Shock Jockey. The game reinforces how important vigors are to the culture of the city. I mean, right now we have to go find Shock Jockey because it's that important to how the city functions. And narratively, it's the same with all the other vigors that we've gotten so far as well. Possession introduced us to the world of vigors. Devil's Kiss and Murder of Crows were rewards for defeating our first brute-type enemies, and offers a Watsonian explanation as to why these enemies have these abilities and why they're stronger than your typical goon. But now, Bucking Bronco is just kind of sitting there on some crate on the sidelines. No fanfare, no feeling of this being a new, strange, and fantastic ability that plays an important role in the story and in this city. It's just in some corner, almost an afterthought. All that being said, it's without a doubt the most useful vigor we've come across so far. It costs significantly less salts to use than the other vigors, it stuns the enemies for longer than Murder of Crows, there's no limit to how many enemies can be stunned if you hit them all with one wave, and it's also just silly as hell. Fighting through the Hall of Heroes, we realize that the entire museum has been taken over by Cornelius Slate, an ex-soldier of Columbia's militia and former military captain that served in the US Army alongside Booker. It seems that in the years since parting ways with Booker, Slate linked up with Comstock before having a falling out due to what he perceived as Comstock lying about his military history. Comstock claims that he played a major hand in the Wounded Knee Massacre and the Boxer Rebellion, two events that Slate participated in and confirms Comstock was not present for. In Slate's mind, Comstock is a military imposter, stealing valor from him and his fallen comrades. So, to oppose Comstock, he joins forces with a rebel group known as the Vox Populi to fight back against Columbia and Comstock. Now, Slate does not seem like the most well-adjusted, reliable man, but even Booker denies that Comstock was present at the Wounded Knee Massacre, let alone present as the leader of his cavalry.
Our prophet, Father Comstock, commander of the 7th Cavalry.
That man did not lead the 7th. Hell, I don't even remember the guy.
We work our way through the Hall of Heroes, and Slate begins addressing Booker directly, praising him as everything Comstock isn't. A genuine, real soldier willing to get his hands dirty to fulfill his duty, seeking no glory in the process. Knowing he's backed into a corner for a final stand, Slate tells his troops that they can either die at the hands of the fake soldier Comstock, or at the hands of the war hero Booker DeWitt. The Hall of Heroes is divided into multiple sections, portraying the Boxer Rebellion and the Wounded Knee Massacre, serving as a mega racist Disneyland ride of a lore dump for Booker and Slate's military past together. And if you haven't brushed up on your social studies textbooks, a very skewed lore dump of American history as well. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole history of it because while I do like discussing relevant history to video games, it deserves its own video, and I'm just not a history channel. Look it up on your own time if you're curious, it is fucked up. But the bottom line is, while Booker wasn't actually at the Boxer Rebellion, he definitely was at the Wounded Knee Massacre when he was younger. And he wasn't just a regular participant either. See, at some point during his war days, Booker was accused of having Native American blood by a sergeant in front of his fellow soldiers. To prove that he was a hot-blooded American patriot, he committed extensive atrocities towards the Lakota people, including scalping them. While fighting in the Wounded Knee exhibit, Elizabeth comments on how she can see in Booker's face that he was there. He puts on a strong air, but it's clear that his younger self's actions weigh on him tremendously. The drinking, the gambling, the debt, the anger, the disdain for Columbia's racism. His actions at Wounded Knee made Booker into the man that he is when we meet him, for all the good and the bad that did him.
Now that you're out of yours, you might realize cages have their advantages.
A choice is better than none, Mr. DeWitt. No matter what the outcome.
Yeah. What if you woke up one day and realized you didn't like what you chose?
After clearing out the hordes of enemies in the Boxer Rebellion and Wounded Knee exhibits, Slate tells Elizabeth and Booker that the shock jockey that they're looking for is in the First Lady of Columbia exhibit. And I gotta say, I haven't brought it up since first setting sight on Columbia at the beginning of the game, but just wow. Bioshock Infinite has moments of being visually breathtaking. This room is inside of a museum, but the art direction, the lighting, just the whole vibe is absolutely gorgeous. But in addition to being beautiful, this room also gives us several nuggets of important plot. It's revealed that the leader of the Vox Populi, a woman named Daisy Fitzroy, allegedly murdered Comstock's wife. But more importantly, a statue of the First Lady reveals to Elizabeth that Comstock had a child, a detail not included in any of her history books growing up. Elizabeth is no fool, and she quickly puts the pieces together. She's the daughter of Comstock, who was grooming her to take his place as the leader of Columbia and to fulfill his prophecy, to drown in fire the mountains of men. An eerily similar prophecy to Booker's vision of Columbia dropping bombs on New York earlier in the game. Further into the exhibit, Elizabeth squeezes through a gate that Booker is slightly too large to fit through. At a dead end, Elizabeth notices one of her tears and brings a freight hook into their world that Booker can use to skyhook into the main courtyard area. I gotta take off the baylet because it might interfere with the microphone. And it's in this moment that the final core mechanic of the game is introduced. So far the game has been trickle feeding us mechanics. Skyhook melee attacks, gunplay starting off with a pistol and ramping up into way heavier firepower, vigors starting with simple control over automatons and ramping up into overt offense, skyline traversal that can be chained into combat, a companion scavenging system that provides resources throughout gameplay, and finally the ability to tailor the moment to moment gameplay to your own playstyle by choosing which tears to have Elizabeth open up. On the fly, you can choose to have Elizabeth open up tears that will provide ammo, health pack crates, automatons to help in combat, new guns, traversal options. As Booker says, it's very convenient. We're now in the midst of Slate's last stand. He sends waves and waves of enemies at us, and now that every gameplay mechanic is unlocked for use, the game really takes the gloves off. This battle is difficult, the most difficult one we've had yet, and it takes quick thinking and every tool at our disposal to overcome it. It's here we're introduced to our next class of brute, the motorized patriot. To take these guys down quickly, we have to shoot the motor on their back, but the catch is they're deceptively quick, and even if you do get a couple good shots at its back, it'll turn around and unload on you with a very powerful Gatling gun. We do not have the proper arsenal for this at the moment. Now, being an automaton, I do try to use possession on it, but even that only lasts for a few seconds. So I use Elizabeth's tears to spawn in ammo and salts, and we handle the Patriot the old-fashioned way, brute force. We work our way through more waves of Slate's men, sidestepping electric crystal shock jockey mines that Slate prepared around the arena. He throws firemen at us before running out of men and finally relenting. As we approach his wounded body, he springs to life, demanding we take his pistol. We're given the choice to spare him or finish him off. And seeing as how I'm kind of on board for the whole Booker choosing to live a better life and growing as a person after his atrocities in Wounded Knee thing, I choose to spare him. We grab the shock jockey and Slate goes catatonic. But I immediately realized that this mercy was misguided because Slate spent the entire battle praising Booker for his wartime atrocities and very likely engaged in quite a few of his own. I try to finish him off with my skyhook, but the choice is already made, which is kind of a bummer. He does make these wild ass noises though. If you've played Bioshock 1, Shock Jockey works almost identically to the very first plasmid that you get, Electro Bolt. If you haven't played the first Bioshock, you basically just shoot out a jolt of electricity that stuns enemies. Mechanically, it's a very simple and effective vigor, but I gotta say I'm starting to notice a pattern here. After Murder of Crows and Bucking Bronco, this is the third vigor in a row that just stuns enemies. Now sure, it's not just a stun, it does do pretty decent damage on human enemies and a ton of damage to automatons as well, but still, 3 vigors whose core mechanics are just stun the enemy is a little frustrating. After this long detour through the Hall of Heroes and a walk through one of the most racist museums I've ever seen, we finally make our way back to the depowered gondola, use Shock Jockey to get it up and running again, and Comstock arrives. More and more waves of enemies appear, an overwhelming amount, even more than the Slate battle. And while the Slate battle had us using every mechanic, including the skyhook, to attach to specific grapple points, we now also have full access to the skyline system. And make no mistake, the game wants you to use them. If you stand in one place for too long, you will quickly be surrounded. Between the endless enemies and how many choices I now had at my disposal, I got overwhelmed. I am not ashamed to admit it. I took an RPG to the face, and with that, my very first death of the game. It took me by surprise, I'm not gonna lie. I'm also a recovering nail biter, and that moment had me chomping at my shit. But fortunately, death in Bioshock Infinite is very weirdly forgiving. Elizabeth jabs you with a needle, you wake up near where you died, you lose a little money, the enemies de-aggro for a second so you can get your bearings again, and you're right back in it. It's pretty quick and painless, but it also seems a little bit too lenient. But whatever, I'm not really planning on dying anymore, so it makes no difference to me. I nut up and make it through the waves of enemies, and finally, after creating untold amounts of corpses, we make it onto the gondola to the airship. Finally, a moment of quiet reflection as a reprieve from all the crazy shit we've been through in the last few hours. Elizabeth and Booker talk about his history, where he's from, who he is, why he's come to rescue her, gambling debts, yada yada. Elizabeth mentions when he was unconscious on the beach, he kept muttering the name Anna. which he says he doesn't want to talk about. This lull period is short-lived though, as we're greeted by more and more waves of enemies on the other end of the gondola ride. Usually so much repetition in a game can be a bit overwhelming, but honestly I don't mind all of the shooting galleries. The gameplay is fun, the difficulty is ramping way up, the set pieces are beautiful, the graphics are great, the art direction is timeless, Elizabeth and Booker are just a joy, and I'm eager to further explore their dynamic. The story and mysteries demand your attention and curiosity. I've had a couple of my little complaints, but as of now, this game really does deserve its reputation. So far, it's impeccable. Finally, after hours upon hours, we make it to the airship, and I am just rooting for Booker and Elizabeth to escape Columbia and get their happy ending. But then I remember, they both have very different ideas about what their next step is. Booker lied to Elizabeth. She thinks she's going to Paris. And as he inputs coordinates...
Wait, what is that? 40 north by 74 west. That's not Paris, that's New York.
How did you know that?
One thing I had in that tower was time, Mr. DeWitt. Time to study things like geography.
I owed money. And there's a fellow who... he offered to wipe away my debt in exchange for you. Come on, Eddie. It's gonna be okay. Come on, Eddie. Everything's gonna be okay. Will you just turn around and talk to me and we can...
We awake to a section of Columbia that we haven't seen before. This isn't a golden, false utopia. This is slave labor, overseen by a giant hulking cyborg. Elizabeth is gone, and we're now face to face with the rebel leader of the Vox Populi and murderer of Lady Comstock, Daisy Fitzroy. It's here we get a little more context as to what the Vox Populi even is. A guerrilla rebel faction fighting against the racism and classism of Comstock using any means necessary, made up of the minority population of Columbia who seek to fight fire with fire. The Vox Populi have commandeered the airship and offers to trade it back to Booker in exchange for his support with a task. A gunsmith in a nearby district called Finkton is sympathetic to their cause. If Booker can convince him to supply weaponry to their rebellion, the airship is his. She pushes us out of the airship onto a platform below. Kind of a fucking dick move, and we now have two goals: to find Elizabeth and to get the guns. This part of Columbia is plastered head to toe in images of a man that looks really familiar. Is that the guy who was leading the raffle at the beginning of the game? Fighting through Finkton docking area, the game starts throwing harder and harder enemies at us. I'm starting to wonder if this is an actual difficulty spike or if the game is actually just pretty hard and took a while to reveal its true colors. I die again, and with Elizabeth gone, we get a new death animation. We wake up in a grayscale office, Booker's New York detective practice again, and open a door taking us right back to the battlefield. Fighting on, we encounter Elizabeth, who continues running away from us. Chasing after her, she opens multiple tears to throw off our tail until she opens one too many, temporarily removing a locked door from existence and walking straight into the arms of the police. We take out Comstock's men, but right as we're about to reach her... Elizabeth saves us. Booker convinces her to rejoin us, not on the foundation of trust or respect, but purely out of pragmatism. They both want to get the hell out of Columbia, and Booker is her only hope of doing so. Elizabeth rejoins the party, and they set off to Finkton to arm a rebellion. Look at the balls on this cop. We make it into Finkton, the factory district of Columbia, owned and led by Jeremiah Fink. Fink is basically Bioshock Infinite's version of a corrupt, greedy, evil oil tycoon. He's an acclaimed inventor center, with his most notable contribution to Columbia's society being the Vigors. He owns almost every facet of commerce throughout Columbia and rules with a brutal iron fist, decrying ideas like paid vacation, 8-hour workdays, and workers' compensation as anarchist. He doesn't even pay his employees with silver eagles, Columbia's currency that we've been collecting all game. They're paid exclusively in Fink tokens to be used at the company's store. Man, that fucking sucks. You know what else sucks though? That this is a real practice. Money substitutes that can only be used in specific circumstances, like at a company store, are called scripts. And in times where real currency is kind of hard to come by, like in super isolated towns, ships on long voyages, even POW camps, scripts are often used to make exchanges in lieu of legal tender. But with Columbia being, for all intents and purposes, a very thriving city, I mean, we've been picking up money all game. It's literally everywhere. Fink's usage of scripts tells you more about who he is than the economical state of the city. On our way into Finkton, we come across a building that Slate used to work in, and inside of his locker we find the diary of Lady Comstock. We discover that Comstock claimed that Elizabeth was born of divine will, not of his wife. Now, Lady Comstock didn't believe any of that shit. She very reasonably assumes that Elizabeth was born as a result of an affair and refuses to have her raised in their home. Well, that explains what Elizabeth was doing in that tower. Taking the elevator into Finkton, we get a call from none other than Jeremiah Fink himself, claiming that he's been watching Booker this whole time and makes vague statements about him being the top candidate. We're greeted by his associate, Mr. Flambeau, alongside a table of useful items and a massive revolver, the hand cannon. I love a hand cannon. I've loved a hand cannon since Resident Evil 4. I have a really strong feeling that this is going to be the weapon that takes me to the end of the game. Finkton operates as a central hub for multiple locations we'll be visiting during this middle section of the game. We see the gunsmith's shop, a place called Shantytown, and another building called the Good Time Club with Booker's name on the marquee. Exploring a bit, we come across a tear with music coming through, Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival, which I cannot play in this video. Elizabeth and Booker both note how neither of them have ever heard that song before and press on. We enter the gunsmith Chen Lin's shop, but it's oddly quiet for a literal gun factory. Booker and Elizabeth comment on a Buddhist shrine set up on the staircase leading to the upper level, and Booker realizes that the place has been ransacked. We hear crying from downstairs. Chen Lin's wife, Mrs. Lin, tells us that he was kidnapped and taken to the Good Luck Club, so off we go to rescue him. Almost immediately after going back outside to the street, the giant cyborg that attacked us in the earlier cutscene returns. Only this time, no cutscene. It's time for action. This is the Handyman, our next brute enemy, and let me tell you, he is the hardest brute by a goddamn country mile. He's completely immune to possession, he's a total damage sponge, his only weak spot is his exposed heart, which is very hard to hit considering how quick he is, and most of all, he hits like a tank. He shrugs off our repeated shock jockeys, punches us in the face, and we go down. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try something else. Alright, possession and shock jockey didn't work out. Devil's Kiss kinda sucks. He's probably too big for bucking Bronco. Alrighty, Murder of Crows it is. Oh, awesome, it worked. It's not game-changing, but it is a decent distraction. Good enough to at least let me get a few shots off without worrying about getting my head caved in again. Well, so much for that. I really hate it when games remind you that you can change the difficulty settings when you die. It's so fucking condescending. Jeez Louise, I am just not prepared for the Handyman whatsoever at this part of the game. Did I miss something? Finally, after many deaths, we beat him, but it doesn't feel good. I didn't play well. I didn't utilize some galaxy brain strategy. I just chipped his health down in between deaths with haphazard bullets and vigors until I brute forced a victory. This wasn't battle, it was a war of attrition. We make our way into the Good Luck Club and Fink addresses us directly once more through the intercom. He tells us that with the Vox Populi riling up the entire city, he fears employee unrest will reach a boiling point. He wants Booker, a union-busting ex-Pinkerton, as his head of security to handle his disgruntled employees. But alas, we fight. Neither Booker nor myself are interested in the whole union-busting Pinkerton business. We're here to do a job. In this fight, the fluidity of combat and the tools at my disposal really start to click. Maybe it's because in my last fight the handyman kicked my ass repeatedly, but there's something about this battle that just feels right. It's like I activated the Sharingan, I went Super Saiyan, I went Gear 5. Or maybe I just decided to finally stop fucking around and spam bucking Bronco. Fink throws brutes at us. Firemen, zealots of the lady, motorized patriots. But bucking Bronco and Shock Jockey make short work of them. We make our way backstage, down some stairs, and into the secret prison where Chen-Lin is being held. We come across footage of Chen-Lin post-torture, and he is not in a good way. This film clip is brutal and demonstrates a really excellent bit of design from the developer's end. Chen-Lin's character model is clearly brutalized. His face is swollen and discolored. He's having a hard time breathing. Now, if we were to see him physically in front of us, with Bioshock Infinite's very stylized, almost cartoony character models, that's all we'd see. A brutalized, cartoony character model. We've already seen a ton of them by this point, but the way that the character model is conveyed in this moment, obscured by the heavy film grain and displayed in this dingy, clandestine, hidden prison, surrounded by the stage that they filmed him on and the very tools that they used on him, it becomes way more sinister. If they just introduced Chen-Lin with a bloodied character model, it would kind of come off like the very first corpse that we're introduced to in the entire game. Shocking for sure, but the emotions end there. This is an excellent showcase of horror versus terror. Seeing the game's first tortured corpse is a great example of horror, revulsion at something frightening that you've seen, heard, or experienced. Meanwhile, this clip of Chen-Lin is a great example of terror, the dread that you feel in anticipation of seeing something horrible. You're given a glimpse of what he may look like, and while you know it will be horrible, it's not quite clear yet. The dread builds in your mind and fills in the empty space. We finally find Chen-Lin.
We're too late. God damn it.
This is what he meant.
Now we need to find someone else to make those guns.
No.
Dead is dead, Elizabeth.
Dead is dead.
What? How the hell did...
I see heads.
And I see tails.
It's all a matter of perspective.
Why are you following us? Who sent you? Comstock? What do you want?
What do you see here, from this angle?
Dead.
Listen.
And that angle?
Alive.
Booker. Chen-Lin.
The body's gone.
It was never here.
It's another Columbia.
A different Columbia.
The same coin.
A different perspective.
Heads.
Tails.
Dead.
Alive.
We have to go through to this other Columbia, but how?
It's like riding a bicycle.
One never really forgets.
One just needs the courage to climb aboard.
If we go into this tear, I don't think I'll be able to bring us back. Are you sure you're ready?
Okay, open it.
Look, there's no blood.
And no body.
It's another world, Booker. Another Columbia.
Something tells me one dead gunsmith ain't the only thing that's changed.
And just like that, we're in a new Columbia, an alternate universe where Chen-Lin was never killed. Okay. So far, the story of this game has been really special. There have been a few moments of, well, that was really convenient, which the game itself pokes fun at. But this is the first time I feel like the game has taken a true narrative misstep. See, it's made clear that Elizabeth's powers revolve specifically around opening up tears to other universes and pulling objects into her universe. She's not just creating matter out of thin air or changing some fundamental aspect of her own universe. So in this moment, when we need Chen-Lin alive to supply weaponry to the Vox Populi, and we travel to a different universe where he didn't die so we can do that, we're not actually solving the problem provided to us by the narrative. We've just kind of abandoned the problem altogether. In the universe where we've spent the entire game so far, where all of our problems exist, Chen-Lin is still dead. The Vox Populi still need those guns. Comstock is still on top. The only difference really is that Elizabeth and Booker just no longer exist in that timeline anymore. The plot just kind of gave up on that universe. Now we're in a new one, and we don't really know what conflict faces us outside of the broader mission of escape Columbia. Does Bring Us the Girl, Wipe Away the Debt even exist anymore? What are we doing? Well, we're here one way or another, so let's find out. We come across the footage of Chen Lin again, who is still tortured but was cut loose, with only his tools seized by the police. According to the voices in this footage, apparently his wife has friends in high places. But his wife? Friends in high places in a city as violently racist as Columbia? Huh. We come across some enemies that we killed in the previous universe, but there's something clearly not right with them. Mentally struggling, phasing in and out of reality. Bloody noses, questioning out loud why they're still here and how they hate one of themselves, but they aren't sure which one. I put them out of their misery. Somehow, in addition to the regular memories, these characters also have the memory of their previous universe's selves as well. They remember dying at our hands, and that's not really doing wonders for their mental well-being. Clearly, there are some consequences to traveling to an alternate universe, but what other consequences are waiting for us? We head back to Chen Lin, and still no machinery, still no tools, as the video footage promised. Notably, his Buddhist shrine has been replaced by a figure of Comstock. Chen Lin is upstairs, but like the enemies from before, he's phasing in between two worlds, working with his tools in one of them, but going through the same motions in an empty room in this one. We come across a lady praying at the Comstock altar by the name of Mrs. Lin. But this lady's white though. In this universe, Chen Lin married a different woman, presumably with some sort of relationship to Columbia's higher-ups, which would explain why Chen Lin was let go in the midst of being tortured instead of being murdered like in the last world. She implores us to retrieve his tools from the nearby Shantytown neighborhood for her. So we head to the Shantytown police impound to retrieve them. On our way, Elizabeth brings attention to the fact that this entire game, she's been missing a pinky finger and wears a thimble over it. I honestly didn't even notice. The game hasn't really brought attention to it, and there haven't been any moments so far where we've even gotten a very clear look at her hand. Interesting that in this scripted segment, the devs would draw attention to such a small, innocuous detail. Before we hop on the elevator to Shantytown, we come across a vigor we haven't seen before locked behind a gate. That's exciting. We haven't gotten a new vigor since Shock Jockey. Can't wait to grab that whenever this gate opens up. We get on the elevator and have a short period of silent reflection with Elizabeth.
You must think me some sort of freak. A girl who can bring dead men back to life. Whose only acquaintance is a giant bird creature. It must seem ridiculous.
You just got dealt a bad hand.
Since finding out that Booker lied about taking her to Paris, their relationship has been pretty strained. Elizabeth has made it clear that them teaming up was purely out of convenience, and she sees him as little more than just a violent thug. But after entering this new universe, she starts to soften up a little bit. She opens up to Booker. She opens up to us. And for the first time as the player of this game, I'm starting to realize that I'm getting attached to this character. Not as a mission, not as an ultimate goal just to get through the game, but as a well-written, charismatic character that I want to help, that I want to see succeed, that I want good things to happen to. And God bless this script, because in this exact moment, Booker feels the same way that the player does. He empathizes with her, with the struggles and hardships she's had to live through, with the experience she's going through right now. She's starting to become more than a mission for Booker as well. We enter Shantytown, and this is a very different side of Columbia. The homeless live in the shadow of Finkton. Signs are plastered all over, begging for food from both the government and the Vox Populi. This is an underrepresented side of Columbia from both factions. We enter the Graveyard Shift bar, where we drink a bunch of whiskey and get drunk, and I scout out a Finkton employment poster with a bunch of thrown knives sticking out of it. The Bioshock franchise is never beating the great environmental storytelling allegations. We enter the basement and spot a small child running into the shadows and hiding from us. In a lovely reprieve from the hours of violence we've endured so far, Booker picks up a guitar in the corner and plays a song for the child that Elizabeth sings along to as she gives the child an apple. This little moment is so sweet and tells us so much. It's immediately obvious from the moment we meet her that Elizabeth is the type of person to have a soft spot for children. But this is the exact moment that we realize Booker does too. And he's actually a pretty talented musician, and Elizabeth is too. I guess that would explain why they were both so shocked to hear mysterious and brand new music coming from the Tear earlier in the game. They're both music lovers. Also, Troy Baker is never beating the gruff, grizzled, manly character that has to escort a girl and plays guitar allegations either. We explore more of Shantytown, and there's been great care in conveying a very strong sense of culture and community within this part of Colombia. A real togetherness despite the hardships. But it's pertinent to remember, this is still Colombia, and Colombia is rotten to its core. The Shantytown police still defect to prejudice and violence and hatred. So we blast them away, clear out the security keeping us from entering, and walk into the Shantytown police station, the Bull House. Fighting our way through and exploring, we come across one of Daisy Fitzroy's voxophones.
They argued something fierce at night, Lady Comstock and the Prophet. Could never make out what it was about from my bunk, though. After the worst, I seen she ain't left for morning prayer. So I crept upstairs to check in on her. And like a fool, I lingered. Scullery maid was what they called me when I walked into Comstock House. Murderer was what they shouted when I ran out.
So, Daisy didn't kill Lady Comstock. She was one of Comstock's housemaids who stumbled onto Lady Comstock's dead body when she went to check on her after one of her and Comstock's more heated arguments. If this voxophone is to be believed, Fitzroy was framed and made into Columbia's worst enemy, right next to the false shepherd. All for a crime she didn't even commit. Hell, she actually had a decent relationship with Lady Comstock. I'd be pissed off too. We find Chen Lin's tools in the lockup, and once again, the words Booker speaks come straight out of my thoughts.
Well, we sure as hell aren't gonna be able to carry all this back to the shop. God, we didn't think this all the way through.
Yes, Booker. Chen Lin's shop was clearly a factory, devoid of excessively large machinery. It's not like he was just some guy in a garage tinkering around with metals. He was a gunsmith. Earlier in the game, when Booker would make some meta-narrative comment on the convenience of the things happening around him, well, that was convenient. It was cheeky. It was funny. It was harmless. Some of those occurrences even had explanations in-universe. Elizabeth mentions how her tears are a form of wish fulfillment, how she intuitively knows how to tap into universes that provide exactly what she needs in that moment. And Booker's reaction to witnessing literal wish fulfillment in front of him is pretty reasonable. Like, goddamn, yeah, that's really convenient. It gets a giggle, you know? It got a giggle out of me. But in this moment, Booker's meta-narrative commentary isn't harmless. It comes off as lazy writing. Us, the player, knows that these tools will most likely be massive. They came from a literal gun factory. And while we don't know exactly how Booker and Elizabeth are planning on getting these most likely giant tools back to the factory, the way that the characters casually discuss returning these likely massive tools back to Chen Lin implies that the story will have a way of solving this problem when the time comes. But then that time comes and it just doesn't. Booker and Elizabeth show up and literally say, "Oh yeah, we didn't think this through." Yeah, no shit. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that Booker and Elizabeth really did just assume that these tools would be small enough to just kind of carry back to the shop. What about Mrs. Lin, who has presumably spent a ton of time in the factory with her husband surrounded by this machinery? She's just gonna tell these two strangers, hey, bring back those tools, as if that's a reasonable request? As if that's something that they can just do? Maybe this stupidity is characteristic for Mrs. Lin. We don't know her, maybe she's just a nincompoop. But for Booker and Elizabeth, two characters who for the entire game have been shown to be very competent and savvy, this is just an uncharacteristic lapse of judgment. It's character stupidity that exists only to advance the plot. Elizabeth notices a tear on the tools that leads to a world where they were seemingly never taken from Chen Lin, where they're probably back at his shop. Problem solved. Except, well, no, it isn't. In the universe we're currently in, Chen Lin still won't have gotten his tools back. Once again, Booker and Elizabeth are just jumping ship for a new world where it isn't a problem anymore. Elizabeth even tells Booker that if they enter this new world, they won't be able to return to the old one, which in itself is a different one from their own reality. So just, It just feels like back-to-back lazy writing, but at this point, whatever, I guess. Booker and Elizabeth really embody the phrase, out of sight, out of mind.
Come on, let's head back to the gunsmith and finish our deal.
So on we go into yet another alternate universe, where one problem being solved is traded for an untold amount of other problems to arise. We re-enter Shantytown to find the streets adorned with Vox Populi red, rebel soldiers gunning down Columbia police and military, and a giant sign with Booker's face on it. DeWitt, Martyr of the Revolution. Oh, fuck. Walking through the streets, the Vox rebels recognize Booker as the hero of the Vox and sound startled to meet him, which makes sense. If this universe's Booker is known as a martyr, then the man they just met is a ghost. Booker questions why that man would know him before he starts to realize that he actually remembers leading the Vox Populi alongside Slate and burning down the Hall of Heroes. His nose starts bleeding. There are two memories in the same place. What happened to those enemies in the last universe who phased in and out of reality, who had memories of two different lifetimes, is starting to happen to Booker too. Remember that quote at the very beginning of the game? The mind of the subject will desperately struggle to create memories where none exist? We didn't know what it meant then, but it's all starting to come together now. The jump into this newest reality altered more than what Booker and Elizabeth bargained for. We head back into Finkton, and the Vox Populi uprising is in full swing. But before we continue our mission, the gate with that vigor we saw earlier is busted open. So we grab it and unlock the charge ability, which lets us lunge great distances to close the gap between us and the enemy, ending with a massive melee attack. I'm a little disappointed that once again we encounter a vigor that doesn't really have any narrative importance and is just sitting there waiting for us, but we also haven't gotten a new vigor in a while, so I just bottle those feelings up deep inside of me, turn my mind off, and just enjoy it. We head back to the gun shop one last time and come across a voxophone from this universe's Booker DeWitt.
Looks like I got a friend in town after all. Slate. He's fell in with these Vox Populi. And for irregulars, I will say, they are loaded for bear. Problem is, I gotta help them with their damn revolution first. Then we take Comstock House by storm. I do that, I get the girl.
So this universe's Booker was an unwitting participant in the Vox Populi revolution. Despite being labeled as a martyr in death, the true purpose of his involvement started and ended with retrieving Elizabeth. We come across the bodies of Chen Lin and Mrs. Lin, who were presumably killed by the Colombian authorities after supplying the Vox Populi with weaponry. Booker and Elizabeth have seen enough, and from a very convoluted point of view, in their minds they did actually succeed in getting the Vox Populi their weapons, so they set off to reclaim the First Lady's airship to once again try to escape the city. On our way, just because we have a little downtime, we kill another small army of people, take down a Fink airship, and escape on Skyline as the Vox Populi cheer Booker's name. Alright, that's pretty cool. It really doesn't matter what universe Booker is in. He might go about it in the wrong way, but ultimately he does do some pretty good things. Landing in front of a Vox Populi faction freshly galvanized by Booker's actions, we lead the charge into Finkton, cosplaying as a revolutionary icon who just happens to also be us. Heading up to the airship, our elevator gets a call from this universe's Daisy Fitzroy. She saw Booker die. He's either an imposter or a phantom, but whoever he is, he makes a very simple story of Vox Populi heroism into something much, much more complicated. And so on her orders, when we get off the elevator, the Vox Populi attack. As per usual, we kill them all and inch closer to the airship. On our way, we come across two items of interest. The first, a voxophone from Jeremiah Fink. The second, a new vigor. These happen at the exact same time, so I'll just play the clip.
These holes have shown me yet another wonder, though I've yet to see the application for it. They illuminate a merger of machine and man that is somehow the lesser yet the greater of both parties. The process seems to be irreversible. Perhaps, though, Comstock will have some need of this kind of thing to keep watch in that tower he is building.
Okay, first item of interest and the less interesting of the two. We got a new vigor, Undertow, which allows us to grab enemies from afar with a giant watery tentacle, or blast water at enemies and send them flying backwards. Very useful for a flying city setting. But goddamn, if this game had a problem with gracelessly introducing new vigors to us before, this one takes the goddamn cake. Not only is there no fanfare, no story significance, it's not even presented to us in any sort of special way. It's just on the ground, next to a corpse. By this point, I've completely given up on expecting vigors to hold any significance beyond just a fun gameplay mechanic. The second item of interest, and by far the more interesting one, is Fink's voxophone. So Fink might not be the genius inventor that he claims to be after all. He's aware of all the tears that occur throughout Columbia and uses them to peek into different worlds, stealing, modifying, and marketing creations that haven't yet been invented in his world. He talks about how after looking into a specific world, he comes across the irreversible intersection between machine and man, and talks about how this may be useful for the protection of Comstock's new tower. Now, if this tower he's talking about is Memorial Island, then that protection must be Songbird. And if Songbird is based off of a combination of machine and man that he saw in a different universe, could it be possible that the world that Fink looked into was Rapture, the underwater city of Bioshocks 1 and 2? Could this irreversible combination of machine and man be the Big Daddies that patrol Rapture's halls? At a glance, Songbird and the Big Daddies do share a lot of really similar design elements. But let's dig even further into these implications. Could this be the explanation for all of the game's anachronisms, like the barbershop quartet singing The Beach Boys' God Only Knows earlier in the game? Did Fink hear that song coming out from a tear, like we heard Fortunate Son by Creedence, and release it 50 years before it was even written? And what about the gameplay similarities to the other Bioshock games? As a player, we know that this game is set in a different universe than the other Bioshock games. That much was made clear from the very first trailer that was released for this game. It was always clear that this was a standalone story, not continuing the story of Rapture from Bioshock 1 and 2. But it's still set in the same franchise. So when we see similar elements like vigors or vending machines, we don't really think twice about it. We just say, cool, yep, that's definitely still Bioshock, and keep playing. But is the lore reason why there are so many mechanical similarities between all of these games because Fink has been looking into Rapture, taking their inventions and marketing them en masse to the citizens of Columbia? The implications of this voxophone are nothing short of massive, and it's just so unbelievably Bioshock. As I mentioned earlier, the first Bioshock game shined a spotlight on the player's willingness to just blindly follow directions that a game gives you. And now Bioshock Infinite shines a spotlight on the player's expectation of what a sequel even is. It really just goes to show that this franchise has earned its stellar reputation. We approach the top of the tower and... Okay, well, Fink was a pretty huge piece of shit, not the end of the world. We fight the Vox, kill a handyman, use Undertow to great effect, boost Elizabeth into an air vent, and... oh man, Daisy, you've lost the fucking plot completely. Right when Daisy's about to resign herself to an eternity in hell and get my video removed from YouTube... oh shit. Elizabeth catches her very first body.
Elizabeth.
She's a tad in shock and runs off into the airship. We find a voxophone on Fink's dead body. This universe is Booker DeWitt's final words before he dies.
Fitzroy, you win this fool war. You send this to New York. They ain't getting the girl. Whoever they are. Maybe I did right by you and the Vox, but in the end, that don't square anything. Anna, I'm sorry.
There's that name again, Anna. Anna. Who is Anna? Have we met her before and I just don't remember? We board the airship and as we set course, Elizabeth comes out of the room she's locked herself in, but she's changed. No, like literally, she changed clothes into her adoptive mother, Lady Comstock's wardrobe, and cut off her hair. And it's clear from her dialogue, the killing of Daisy Fitzroy, even to rescue an innocent child, weighs heavily on her conscience. As she asks us where we're going, New York or Paris, a familiar tune plays behind us. Songbird is coming. In a mad dash to find a throttle, an accelerator, anything to get us away from Songbird, he strikes.
Help me find it! Elizabeth! Hang on to something!
Welcome to Emporia.
That's not it.
Certainly is.
Isn't.
Is.
Isn't.
Is.
Try again.
All right.
Hold on.
Here you are.
Booker! We've got to stop them!
No, that's the E.
No, that is
Booker,
certainly
hurry!
it.
No, it's not.
It is.
Isn't.
Is.
Isn't.
Is.
If they play the whole
again.
song,
No,
he'll
you
come
try.
back.
Fine.
Here.
Nope, that is not it. Is not.
Stop
Is.
it!
Is not.
Is.
Not.
Pay attention.
Stop
Fine.
it! You don't know
Here
what
we
you're
are.
doing!
Ha! There it is.
You've done it now. He's coming back. He's coming back.
The notes were correct.
The instrument was not.
One needs both to get his attention.
But if you know how to sing to him,
He will take you where you need to go.
Who are you?
we are where we are needed.
And needed where we are.
So Comstock uses these songs. Are there others we can use? Something to keep the bird off our back?
Perhaps you should ask the maestro himself.
So where is he? Of course. Well, at least they left the piano.
Emporia is the wealthiest, most upper-class district in all of Colombia, and as of right now, in the midst of evacuation to escape from the Vox Populi uprising. This is also where Comstock's house is, and hopefully the man himself. Songbird can clearly be controlled using a combination of specialized instrument and a series of specific notes. If this goddamn bird monster won't let us escape Colombia, then maybe we can find a way to get him off our back, and right now, interrogating Comstock is the best way to find out how. So to Comstock House we go. Maybe it's because I'm currently engaged and soon to be married, but Jesus Christ, this small moment of a man begging his wife to jump onto the airship, and her being too scared of plummeting to her death to do it just breaks my heart. The voice acting really sells it. What a genuine reaction to this situation.
I'm sorry, I can't do it. You can do it. Come on, you can do it. Just jump. Go. Jump. Honey, I can't do it. I cannot do it. I'm sorry. I love you, but I can't. I can't do it. I'm sorry.
Anyway, at this point in the game, I'm not really clear where Booker and Elizabeth stand with the Vox Populi. Like, sure, we killed Fitzroy, but do the Vox know that? For all they know, we're still the martyr of the Vox that's still alive somehow. So I followed this guy around for a second, and he doesn't aggro, so I figure, alright, guess this is part of the game where we're on good terms. But then he looks at me very intimidatingly, so I set him on fire and beat him to death. We fight on into the deeper reaches of Emporia, and as we take a gondola into the downtown area, Lutece and her companion appear once again.
I just realized who those two are. They, well, at least she, invented the technology that allows the city to float.
Giant balloons.
Quantum particles, suspended in space-time at a fixed height.
So, not giant balloons?
But the thing is, my book said they disappeared several years ago.
I told you they'd come.
No, you didn't.
Right. I was going to tell you they'd come.
But you didn't.
But I don't.
You sure that's right?
Something tells me they're not exactly what they appear.
I was going to have told you they'd come?
No.
The subjunctive?
That's not the subjunctive.
I don't think the syntax has been invented yet.
It would have had to have been.
Had to have had been. That can't be right.
They seem to want to help.
They seem to be out of their minds.
Odd, isn't it?
What's odd?
The fact that we sometimes...
Finish each other's sentences?
Exactly.
It would be odder if we didn't.
How do you suppose they manage that?
I'll get back to you after I figure out the floating city bit.
So the subtitles finally give him a name, Robert Lutece. Rosalind Lutece's brother, maybe? We get off the gondola, fight some more Vox Populi, walk through some buildings that take us downtown, look at this shit in the toilet, okay wait, actually that's a potato, let's go ahead and eat that, and end up in a bookstore where we find another one of Rosalind Lutece's voxophones.
Brother, what Comstock failed to understand is that our contraption is a window not into prophecy, but probability. But his money means the Lutece field could become the Lutece tear, a window between worlds, a window through which you and I might finally be together.
So, a couple revelations here. Firstly, Rosalind addresses the Voxophone to her brother, but goes on to state that he lives in a different universe, and that with Comstock's funding, their Lutece tear can lead to them finally coexisting together. So they're from different universes. That's interesting. Are they actually siblings then? Second, the reason why Comstock is able to see the future and has gained a reputation as a prophet isn't because of some supernatural ability, and it certainly wasn't given to him by God. He funded Lutece's research to build a machine that allowed them to open up tears into probable futures, allowing him to make future predictions with actually a certain degree of genuine accuracy. We enter a bar called the Salty Oyster and find a button underneath the cash register leading to a hidden room containing Bioshock Infinite's final vigor, Return to Sender. Return to Sender creates a magnetic shield in front of Booker, allowing him to catch bullets and propel them back to the enemy. This is far and away the best and most useful vigor in the entire game, and subtly informs us that we're nearing the beginning of the end here. We also find yet another one of Rosalind Lutece's voxophones.
You have been transfused, brother, into a new reality, but your body rejects the cognitive dissonance through confusion and hemorrhage. But we are together, and I will mend you. For what separates us now but a single chromosome?
So, Robert Lutece isn't Rosalind's brother. He is Rosalind, from a universe where she was born a man instead of a woman. When she brought him into her universe, he experienced the same reaction to universe hopping that Booker did. Confusion, bleeding, false memories. But somehow, Rosalind figured out how to keep him healthy. Going further still, we come across a gate that we can't return through, and the dreaded song of the songbird plays once again. We're able to hide from him until he leaves, and Elizabeth shares exactly how she feels about being taken prisoner by the songbird again.
Elizabeth, you...
Promise me.
I will stop him.
That is an oath you cannot keep. But promise me that if it comes to it, you will not let him take me back.
It won't come to that. All right?
Heavy. We enter downtown Emporia and the Vox Populi are ravaging the city. Fire and dark clouds envelop Columbia, literal universes away from the brilliant golds of the first half of the game. We fight through the beginning of downtown Emporia, taking out gunmen in the mandatory Sniper Canyon section that every first-person shooter campaign has. And for the first time, we gain access to a tear titled Decoy that summons a fake Booker used to distract enemies. Hey, sick, this is the first time we get an actual third-person view of Booker's character model. Looking sharp, friend. We walk into an underground speakeasy to Vox Populi members lounging around, putting on fancy upper-class accents and demanding wine.
Yes, more of your finest.
What a funny, cute little moment. We put our new Return to Sender ability to the test. Holy crap, that rules. Now, Bioshock Infinite is without a doubt certifiably not an open world game. It's highly linear, and because of that, there isn't really a need for a map or a mini-map. You tend not to get lost very easily, and even if somehow you do, if you press up on the D-pad, it'll summon this arrow that'll point you in the right direction. But Emporia is a large open area with branching paths. And the way it's laid out does open the level design up for some non-linear exploration. So to account for this, the devs put these convenient maps of Emporia all throughout the environment, so you never truly lose your way. It's simple but highly effective, and I do really appreciate it when I start to lose my way and wander in circles. In one of Emporia's storefronts, we find a Comstock voxophone.
In front of all the men, the sergeant looked at me and said, "Your family tree shelters a teepee or two, doesn't it, son?" This lie, this calumny had followed me all my life. From that day, no man truly called me comrade. It was only when I burnt the teepees with the squaws inside did they take me as one of their own. Only blood can redeem blood.
So, Comstock was accused of having Native American ancestry by his military higher-ups and committed violent atrocities to the native population to convince his peers otherwise. Huh. So he was at Wounded Knee. Why doesn't Booker remember him being there? I'd imagine they'd have a lot to talk about considering their shared experience being war criminals. In a destroyed music shop, we come across another tear with Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper playing in that universe, and a nearby gramophone playing an old-timey rendition of Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. On top of the piano is a voxophone from Fink.
My dear brother, these holes in the thin air continue to pay dividends. I know not which musician you borrow your notes from, but if he has half the genius of the biologist I now observe, well, then you are to be the Mozart of Columbia.
Bam! Confirmed. All the anachronistic songs that exist in Columbia were stolen not by Jeremiah Fink, but by his brother, Albert Fink, taken from alternate universes that exist further in time. That is such a cool fucking explanation, man. We continue on to Comstock House, or at least try to, get lost a few times, end up where we started, check out the map again, and finally make it to the front door. But it's coded to the fingerprints of Lady Comstock. It's also sassy as hell.
Lady Comstock, how lovely to see you. Wonderful of you to make the journey, especially considering your painful death 19 years ago. Your fingerprints do not seem to be your own today, Lady Comstock. Are you unwell?
This isn't going to work. Your mother's dead, Elizabeth.
Yes. I think it's time I paid my respects. Let's head to where she's buried.
So I'm not quite sure exactly what Elizabeth is planning to do with her mother's corpse, but it really sounds like she's planning on cutting off her mother's hand and using it to open this door. We head on over to the spooky ass graveyard where her crypt is, head inside to crack open her airlocked resting chamber to cut off her hand when...
You see, child, you chose to follow a false shepherd and he has led you astray. What I do for love. What lion does not cringe to see their common pain, but spare the rod, spoil the child. If you won't listen to me, perhaps you will listen to your mother.
Oh shit, there are ghosts in this game now? Wild, but how?
Elizabeth, why is your mother a ghost?
Yeah, good question, Booker. So now the Lady Comstock boss fight, aka the Siren. She's a total bullet sponge and can summon the dead, but for all intents and purposes is a pretty straightforward boss fight. Not really any gimmicks, no puzzles, just spray and pray. Or in our case, exploit the totally broken return to sender vigor to redirect all of the reanimated corpse's bullets back at her for a ton of damage. This boss is somewhat notorious amongst fans of Bioshock Infinite for kind of sucking an infinite amount of balls. And keeping that in mind, let's really quickly talk about Bioshock Infinite's boss battles. They're not great. Honestly, boss battles have been a major Achilles heel for the Bioshock franchise going all the way back to the first game. Even at its brightest, Bioshock has suffered from some real dog shit bosses. In fact, it's kind of even up for debate if boss battles exist in Bioshock Infinite at all. Think about the major bosses we've had so far. Yeah, can you? I mean, technically, if you stretch the definition a little bit, you could count the introduction of each brute enemy as a sort of mini-boss. We had the Fireman, which did serve that purpose at the beginning of the game, the Zealot a little bit later on, the Motorized Patriot, but that kind of was less of a boss fight and more of just an introduction to a new enemy type. Enemy types who, at the time, we just weren't really well enough equipped to deal with effectively, but soon enough, they all became enemy types that we deal with very frequently. Even the last stands of the major antagonists that we've met up until this point, Slate, Fitzroy, just kind of boiled down to waves and waves of enemies coming at us. Is Lady Comstock even considered a boss? Or is this just a new enemy type? Does Bioshock Infinite have bosses? Well, whatever you want to call her, Return to Sender makes short work of her. So Lady Comstock isn't a ghost per se, more of an extreme version of what happened to Booker when he crossed universes, but instead of phasing in and out of worlds, she exists simultaneously across them. But being both alive and dead simultaneously, defeating her isn't the end. We follow her footsteps out of the cemetery and once again talk to the Lutesses.
Why do you ask what?
When the delicious question is when.
The only difference between past and present
Is semantics.
lives, lived, will live.
Dies, died, will die.
If we could perceive time as it truly was,
What reason would grammar professors have to get out of bed?
like us all, Lady Comstock exists across time.
She's both alive and dead.
She perceives being both.
She finds this condition disagreeable.
Perception without comprehension.
It's a dangerous combination. Look! Footsteps. She goes to unfinished business.
It's a shame you have need of her to enter Comstock House.
Frankly, she doesn't seem all that cooperative.
There is a way to bring her to reason.
3 truths you must discover first.
Truths which, in this world, Comstock has destroyed.
If only one of you had the power to alter time and space.
That would be a blessing, wouldn't it?
Well, they're sarcastic.
Okay, well this explains why Emporia is more open zone than the rest of the locations in the game. A treasure hunt section. Time to find 3 different tears that reveal the truth of Lady Comstock's mysterious death. Following her footsteps, we reach the Laboratory Lutece, where the Lutesses worked and lived. We find one of Rosalind's voxophones, informing us that repeat exposure to the Lutece tear machines rendered Comstock sterile. We find our first tear and a stray voxophone inside of their machine.
You are! That's my mother.
I assure you, madam, my sexual interest in your dear prophet is non-existent.
Madame Lutece.
Furthermore, the man is quite sterile. It's a lie. Come again, you little bastard! I want her out of my house!
Sterile.
They weren't my parents.
Then what were you to them?
A child that they decided to imprison.
Lady Comstock seems to believe the child is a result of some errant act of carnality between myself and her beloved prophet. I told the poor woman the truth, that the child was a product of our little contraption, but I think she found that less believable than her delusion.
So, Comstock was sterile because of their Terra machine, but in need of an heir to continue his legacy, he reached into another universe and stole a baby Elizabeth. Lady Comstock was kept in the dark about all of this, so she didn't believe any of this multiverse shit, instead accusing Rosalind of having an affair with her husband. Which, I mean, hey, that's a more logical explanation than multiversal cradle robbing. Can't even blame her for that. We follow the footsteps some more, take out some zealots, and head into the Bank of the Prophet. We shoot, Bronco, shoot, all the way into the bank's main vault. But what does this place have to do with Lady Comstock? Well, there's our second tear. Let's find out.
And if I do this sabotage, all their patents? All of them, Mr. Fink. Now, why does the Prophet want these 2 killed?
For the same reason Lady Comstock lies buried.
Child. And why does he want me to do it?
Because only you can make it seem an accident.
So Fink, that stinky bitch, is the reason why the Lutesses went missing years before the story. He sabotaged their machine and killed them while they were inside. But if that's the case, how are they here now? Why are they anywhere they want to be? Why can they teleport? So many questions as to the nature of the Lutesses arise with this tear. But we do get one question answered. Fink asks the man he's conversing with why Comstock wants these 2 killed, and he responds, the same reason Lady Comstock lies buried, the child. So Comstock murdered his wife to tie up any loose ends surrounding the true nature of Elizabeth's origin, then blamed it on Daisy Fitzroy. What a total piece of shit. On the way out, Elizabeth theorizes that the siren Lady Comstock is somehow a combination of Lady Comstock herself and Elizabeth's negative, angry feelings towards her mother. Much in the same way that tears throughout the game have been a form of wish fulfillment, where her subconscious knows what would best benefit her in that exact moment and provides the opportunity to pull those objects into her reality, the siren is the negative version of that. Her subconscious personified the anger that she feels towards her family and manifested it into the ghoul that's before us now. We come across yet another tear and a nearby voxophone.
But you 2 are dead. I took your funeral photo.
Yes, and made an absolute hash of it.
One doesn't expect a picture of one's corpse
To come across so lifelessly.
That's insanity. What proof would you have that Mr. Fink would hurt the Lutesses?
The Lutesses told me.
The Lutesses? When?
Yesterday morning.
Rupert! They've been dead these 7 days.
After 7 days of the Lutesses being dead, they somehow returned from the grave and explained to their funeral photographer how Fink sabotaged their machine to assassinate them. Clearly, Jeremiah Fink's assassination attempt didn't go as planned. By attempting to use the terror machine to murder the Lutesses, it seemed he accidentally untethered them from the boundaries of reality. They now exist outside of space-time and can travel wherever and whenever they want at will. I know it's kind of splitting hairs here, but I do want to add a big disclaimer to calling this time travel. As far as we know, they can't actually travel forward and backwards through a singular forward-flowing timeline. Again, as far as we can tell, their time travel is them hopping into different universes that just occur at a different moment in time. The same way that Elizabeth opened up a tear to 1980s Paris. That isn't happening in her universe, that's happening in a different universe that just so happens to be at a different period of time. The Lutesses' powers work the exact same way. So if their presence influences the story of Booker and Elizabeth and Comstock in a way that wasn't intended or in a way that they didn't like, say Booker coming to Columbia and getting killed trying to complete his mission, then they can't rewind the clock and start over in that universe. That already happened. The ink is dry. But they can hop into a different but mostly identical universe and just try again with a new Booker, a new Elizabeth, a new Comstock. And the game has actually shown us already that this has happened a lot of times, actually. Remember those tally marks earlier in the game where they had Booker flip a coin? It's strongly implied that this is their 123rd attempt at making the story unfold as they intend it to. Heading back to Comstock House, the Siren makes one more appearance, and our strategy remains exactly the same. Return to send her right in the face until she, well, doesn't go down, but gives up and relents long enough for Elizabeth to talk no jutsu her. And with that, after finding out the truth behind Lady Comstock's and the Lutesses' murders and making peace with her mother, we gain access to the gondola that'll take us to Comstock House. And in the distance, it is visually oppressive to say the least. As we walk up, observing the swath of ominous clouds, lightning, spotlights, giant imposing busts of the founding fathers.
Booker! Run, Elizabeth!
We're thrown backwards through a window and thrust into another one of Booker's patented office dream sequences, but this time with a little more context.
Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt.
As per usual, bring us the girl and wipe away the debt. Only this time, it's the Lutesses and they're blocking the exit. The sound of a children's toy box plays from behind the only other door in the office, so we turn around to check it out, and when we enter...
Jesus fucking Christ.
Stop! Stop it! Stop it! Don't hurt him! I'm sorry! I'm sorry. I never should have left. I never should have left. Take me back. Take me home. Please.
Elizabeth is gone, willingly taken by Songbird to spare Booker's life. But Booker doesn't give up that easily. He cares deeply for her now. And at this point, we care deeply for her as well. We chase after them towards Comstock House.
Snow. It's July.
That's strange. There hasn't been any snow anywhere in this game so far. We were just looking at Comstock House and it wasn't snowing. What's happening? As we approach, we can hear Elizabeth's voice coming out of tears, begging for her own safety. As her voice fades, we enter Comstock House. Immediately, things aren't right. A statue of Elizabeth, as we know her, adorns the central hall. Our Lady Elizabeth, Godspeed thy judgment. Elizabeth's voice is on the PA system.
We were given Eden, and we turned it into sorrow.
What is this place?
We walk deeper into the halls. No sin evades his gaze. Alright, well that's pretty ominous. Elizabeth's voice continues to echo through the halls, begging for mercy as we encounter a new enemy type. Some sort of siren-headed human with a spotlight for a face. These are the Boys of Silence, the final enemy type that we encounter in the game. This enemy is unique in that it functions completely separately from all other enemy types. They can't be killed or wounded. It's not a brute that you need to dump bullets and vigors into. If you're caught in their gaze, they summon waves of enemies to attack. All you can do with the Boys of Silence is avoid them. Astute players will clock right away that this essentially makes Comstock House Bioshock Infinite's stealth section. Oh, great. Stealth sections have a very controversial history within the pantheon of video games. Obviously, there are games that are built around stealth. Metal Gear Solid, Tenchu, Sly Cooper, and they tend to implement stealth mechanics great, but it's because the games are built around them. Where stealth starts to become an issue is when a game shoehorns a stealth section into the story just because it's a popular gaming trend, and this can yield mixed results. Sure, there are some games that successfully pull this off. They include stealth sections that end up working kind of alright, even though it's not a stealth-based game. But I'd argue that more often than not, if your game isn't built around stealth mechanics and all of a sudden has a stealth section, it's probably going to be a low point. For now, we don't know how Bioshock Infinite will handle stealth. We've only been given one Boy of Silence, and he served as more of an introduction to the concept of them and the punishment for failing than an actual test of stealth. But Infinite doesn't have a singular stealth mechanic to speak of, so I'm not really optimistic that it's going to be a great section. Working through Comstock House, we come across a voxophone made by Elizabeth herself, only she looks and sounds rougher than when we last saw her only minutes ago.
I suppose the siphon is a kind of leash. Yes, my father put it on me. But when the time came, neither did I remove it myself. What would happen if I took off the leash and I found I was as obedient as ever?
We head into the atrium. The environmental design of this part of the game is really tickling the inner Bioshock fan inside of me. I've loved the change of pace that Infinite provides to the Bioshock formula, but this section of the game is, at least from an atmospheric perspective, very similar to Bioshocks 1 and 2. Dark, dirty, gloomy. When it wants to, Bioshock Infinite really does remind you that, at the end of the day, it's still a Bioshock game. We see our next Boy of Silence. Here we go. Let's see what kind of stealth you have in store for us, Bioshock. And it's basically nothing. We just stay out of the sightline of the Boy of Silence and we're fine. No audible footstep mechanics. They don't even walk a monitoring path. They stand in one place, look to the left and right, and you just walk right past them. It's very easy to avoid. There aren't really any other enemies around. All the other inmates in the atrium are only triggered to attack when you're spotted by the Boys of Silence. And there isn't even really any good loot to grab in the riskier areas closer to them either. Look, on one hand, I'm kind of glad that Bioshock Infinite isn't shoehorning some advanced stealth section with underbaked mechanics and automatic failures. This game doesn't need that. But on the other hand, with how simple and bare bones and easy this stealth section is, I kinda gotta ask, what's the point? We enter a torture chamber, tools strewn about and coated in blood. A conversation between Comstock and Elizabeth flows out of a tear in the middle of the room.
Hurting me. Please just let me go.
We're going to cure you.
I'm not sick.
Your spirit is. All I ever wanted is to see you live up to your potential.
Elizabeth is clearly resistant to the torture and the brainwashing that they're attempting on her, but then we find a voxophone nearby.
Our minds are born festering with sin. Some are so blighted, they will never find redemption. The mind must be pulled up from the roots. My children are without blame, without fault. and without choice. For what is the value of will when the spirit is found wanting?
It's clear that at some point between the conversation coming through the tear and the recording of this voxophone, Elizabeth broke. She accepted her role as Comstock's successor, as the leader of Columbia. Our Lady Elizabeth, Godspeed thy judgment. Another tear with another conversation. Elizabeth makes it clear to her doctor, her chief torturer, that she's still holding out hope Booker will come for her, despite leaving her there after all this time. As we travel further into Comstock House, the game shifts gears from the stealth section back into the shooting galleries that we're used to, which, to be honest, I'm pretty happy about. This game's stealth is lackluster, uncontroversial at best, but the shooting galleries, frequent as they may be, are where the game really shines. The final tear that we come across reveals to us just how long we've been gone from the point of view of the Elizabeth on the other side of this tear.
Oh, you still expect DeWitt to burst in and rescue you, don't you? It's been 6 months.
6 months?
Somehow 6 months have passed since the last time we saw Elizabeth. 6 months of torture, experimentation, brainwashing. But that doesn't make sense. This building has a statue of an adult Elizabeth in it. Her aged voice echoes through the halls of Comstock House and through the speakers of the voxophone, galvanized by religious zealotry obviously instilled in her by Comstock. 6 months isn't right. We've been gone way longer than that. We head into the warden of the atrium's office and find another one of Elizabeth's voxophones.
What I've done cannot be undone. I cannot stop what I have put in motion. But perhaps I can keep it from ever starting. He was my first hope. And now, he is my last.
So maybe the brainwashing wasn't as effective as Comstock would have hoped. She's expressing remorse at her actions, referring to Booker as her first and her last hope. But what has she done, and how do we help? We're able to unlock the door to gain access to the room where she was experimented on and hear her cries for help. Wait, is she being experimented on currently? Is this the future or the present? It seems like at this point in the story we're existing in both the past and the present, and the Lutesses offer no further clarification at all.
What? It's a tear. What is it?
Why do you ask what?
When the delicious question is when.
Lives, lived, will live.
Dies, died, will die.
We enter the operating theater and see a familiar silhouette.
As you can see, Booker, the lunatics are running the asylum.
Elizabeth, I don't understand. I heard you screaming. I was coming to get you. Are we...
Here. Take my hand. The seed of the prophet shall sit the throne, and drown in flame the mountains of man. Say what you will about Comstock, he was a hell of a fortune teller. Wasn't the torture that broke me. Wasn't the indoctrination. It was time. Time rots everything, Booker. Even hope.
I was coming.
Songbird. He always stops you.
Yes, but I would find a way.
No. It's too late for me. I brought you here for your sake. Yours and hers. Here.
What is this?
It's for her. She'll know how to read it.
What does it say?
It's advice.
Advice on what?
How not to become me.
And just like that, we're back to the previous timeline. Opening the door to this universe's operating theater, we see Comstock and his surgeons minutes away from experimenting on Elizabeth. We have to hurry. We fight our way through Comstock's cronies, automatons, brutes, rushing our way to turn off the 2 generators powering their equipment. We approach one of the machines where the surgeon is just hanging out. We kill him and turn off the generator. 1 down. We rush to the other one. Motorized Patriots now. Great. But with Return to Sender, we make short work of them. This Vigor really does bust the game wide open. Not in a bad way though. It's very fun. It's like the ultimate science fiction power fantasy. I'm glad they waited until the last Vigor to give it to us. The power creep in this game is very satisfying. 2nd generator, 2nd surgeon. Also just hanging out. We kill him and depower the operating theater. We loosen her from her binds.
Here. I think someone meant for you to have this.
What is it?
Just read it.
Your dream of New York happens. It's me. I'm the one who...
She's given us a way to get past Songbird. We're gonna find an airship and we'll leave Paris, Elizabeth. Remember, you wanted to go
We're not leaving. We are going to find Comstock.
Why?
You saw what he turns me into. I will not allow that.
And so what? You're going to kill him?
This is where you start moralizing, Booker. You forget. I know you.
I'm not going to let you kill him.
Really? Booker? What are you going to do to stop me?
Not a damn thing. Because I'm gonna do it for you.
Oh, hell yes. About goddamn time Elizabeth takes the gloves off. Now that old Elizabeth has given us the means to control Songbird, let's kill this old bastard together. One small hiccup though. Elizabeth doesn't actually know what the message means. The cipher is easy enough to break, but there's a random symbol of a cage that she doesn't understand. We fight our way onto an airship that'll take us to Comstock's flagship Zeppelin, the Hand of the Prophet, to put a bullet in between Comstock's eyes together.
Do you think it's possible to redeem the kind of things that we've done?
Redeem? I don't see much use in that.
Booker, are you afraid of God?
No. But I'm afraid of you.
The very same voice line that we started the game with. We've come full circle. Comstock's men come out to try and stop us from getting to a Zeppelin, but armed with our trusty skyhook, we jump from airship to airship, taking out everyone he throws at us. I take a break from Return to Sender for a bit to chuck enemies off their ships with Undertow, clearly the best and obvious choice for this part of the game. As we take out automatons and more airships, the remaining factions of the Vox Populi join the fray as well. At this point, it's all-out warfare in the sky. Comstock's men defend against us and the Vox try to kill us and Comstock's men, and Undertow pushes anything that moves into the abyss. We make it to the Hand of the Prophet and fight our way to the top deck. The game throws everything at us. Brutes, automatons, motorized patriots, a goddamn handyman, anything that's given us any semblance of trouble throughout this game. It's hard, but we now have all the tools we need to overcome it. We make our way to the top floor of the Zeppelin.
This is my tower. What's this? A siphon.
I saw this there. I could hear you singing from above. And the machine came to life in response.
And then in my mother's grave, there was a smaller one. They were draining me. Maybe that's why I can't.
Can't what?
When I was little, I used to be able not just to open tears, but I could create new ones. To anywhere I wanted to go.
So Comstock's been nerfing Elizabeth for almost her entire life, using a massive siphon built into the bottom half of Monument Island. What could she be capable of without it? We walk into the next room.
Come here, child. Oh, come on, I don't bite. My, oh my, how you have grown.
Tell me, what am I?
Look at you, child. You're
Hey,
a mess.
let go of her.
Elizabeth, Everything I've done to keep you safe.
Safe from what?
The seed of the prophet shall sit the throne and drown in flame the mountains of man. But the archangel revealed something else. Beware, prophet. Beware the false shepherd, Booker DeWitt, for he shall be as a wall between her and destiny.
Why?
DeWitt, I'm a fool. I've sent mighty armies to stop you. I've rained fire on you from above. I did all of that to keep you from her, when all I needed was to tell her the truth. Ask him, child. Ask him what happened to your finger. Ask DeWitt.
Let go of me.
Ask him.
She's your daughter, you son of a bitch! And you abandoned her! Was it worth it? Huh? Did you get what you wanted?
Booker.
Tell me!
Booker!
Tell me!
It is finished.
Nothing is finished!
Booker!
You locked her up for her whole life!
Booker!
You cut off her finger, and you put it on me!
Booker, stop it! You killed him. What did he mean? Huh? You tell me, what did he mean about my finger?
I don't know. Yeah, I just assumed you were born with it. I don't know.
Your nose. It's bleeding.
What? Elizabeth, I swear to you, I have no idea what he was talking about.
You too. You just can't remember it.
No. I'll prove it to you. We'll destroy the siphon. The answer's behind one of your doors. You just have to open it.
Destroy the siphon? It's the entire tower, Booker. How are we gonna do that?
I don't know, but I'll think of something on the way.
Comstock is finally dead, but it's a hollow victory. We've freed Elizabeth from his grasp, but she's still shackled by him as long as Monument Island is standing. And with his cold body laying face first in a basin of water, we're no closer to finding out the extent of Booker's involvement in Elizabeth's life. Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt is only scratching the surface. As Booker commandeers the hand of the prophet, Elizabeth racks her brain trying to crack the code of old Elizabeth's note. Cage, what does that mean? How is it relevant? The Vox Populi's backup forces prepare to board the Zeppelin when Elizabeth starts destroying a nearby songbird summoning statue. She figured it out. Cage was never a word, never a symbol.
Elizabeth, stop it!
C-A-G-E! It's not a word, Booker! It's a song!
C-A-G-E are notes, the song needed to control Songbird.
Shh, it's okay. I'm here. Will you help me? I need you to protect me. Will you do it? Will you do this for me? Just this one last thing. Please. Go! Booker, he'll help us. We can use him against the Vox fleet.
Now he's under our control, and without further ado, the final boss of Bioshock Infinite. Like I mentioned earlier, the Bioshock franchise has a really big problem with boss fights, and Infinite just doesn't really have them. As with Slate's boss fight or Daisy Fitzroy's boss fight, what it really boils down to is just a wave defense battle against all the enemies that you've fought throughout the game so far, only this time there are a few new introduced mechanics. See, you aren't just fighting goons, you're also fighting full airships, constantly deploying new enemies to come attack you. And as if that wasn't enough, the Hand of the Prophet also has a health bar. And while some smaller enemies do prioritize depleting our health bar, the larger enemies like the motorized Patriots prioritize depleting the Zeppelin's health bar instead. There is a much greater sense of strategy involved with this wave defense fight than all of the other ones before. Because of the Zeppelin's health bar, finding cover and letting your shields recover while you think about your next step isn't really an option anymore. You have to think and act fast, or else the Hand of the Prophet's health bar will deplete faster than you realize. But thankfully, you're in control of Songbird now, who you can summon to kill all the enemies standing in that area, or send to attack airships, destroying them completely. This is on a cooldown, so you can't really spam it, but it is still really useful and practically mandatory if you want to get through this fight. This game definitely does have an issue with boss fights, but if every boss is gonna just be wave defense, this one is worthy of being the final one. This is genuinely a very difficult battle. I make it through by the skin of my teeth, and by the end the airship only has a few pixels worth of health before I'd have to start all over again. But we finish first try. We meet Elizabeth at the hull of the ship and see Columbia burning below. It's simultaneously beautiful, cathartic, and apocalyptic. Elizabeth asks us to use Songbird to tear down Monument Island and destroy the siphon hampering her power, to find out the truth about her finger, about Comstock, about Booker's involvement in her life, about everything.
The Whistler! Elizabeth! The bird, Elizabeth! I lost control! He's coming!
No, he isn't.
Where is he? Where is he?
It's okay. It's all right. I'm here. Just let go. There you go. There you go.
Elizabeth, I'm sorry.
Welcome to Rapture. Elizabeth leads us through the halls and into a bathysphere, Rapture's equivalent of Columbia's gondolas. She makes vague references to Rapture being a door, one of many, but we don't know what she means. We surface to a lighthouse in the middle of the ocean, the opening of the first Bioshock game, where the franchise started. We enter through the lighthouse door into an endless ocean, with endless other lighthouses, each door leading to a different universe, each universe sharing similarities and differences, constants and variables. There's always a man, always a lighthouse, always a city. We enter a different door to a different endless ocean with endless other different lighthouses, constants and variables. We look out and see another Elizabeth, another Booker. There's always a man, always a lighthouse, always a city. We go through yet another door, but this time a river, a group, a priest, a baptism. Booker knows this place. He was here after Wounded Knee 20 years in his past. Desperately seeking retribution for his wartime atrocities, Booker considered accepting a baptism to be born anew, absolved spiritually of his many, many sins, of the wickedness inside himself that he hates. And now, living through this memory once more, he accepts. Only, he pulls away at the last minute.
You didn't go through with it.
Think a dunk in the river's gonna change the things I've done? Let's get out of here. Hey, these doors of yours, they're all tears, right? Well, open one up. Open one up to Paris. I want to be shut of all this.
Not until we find Comstock.
Comstock's dead!
No. He was here.
Comstock was here? But how? Another door brings us back to Booker's office. Robert Lutece stands in his doorway.
This is the man who hired me to find you.
Really?
Yes. The girl for the debt.
Booker remembers him now. It was him all along that made the offer to pay off his debts if he brought Elizabeth back from Columbia. We turn around and enter the door to the office's second room again.
Wait, no, this is wrong. What is this? There was no baby. I remember. No, there was no baby, and if there was, I sure as hell wouldn't give it over to this guy.
Booker, you don't leave this room until you do.
DeWitt, time is running short. Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt. The debt's paid. Mr. Comstock washes you of all your sins.
us the girl and wipe away the debt.
There was no baby. The deal was I go to Columbia to get you.
Booker, you're bleeding.
Oh. I remember what I remember.
Now we've upset him.
I don't expect this next bit will do much for his mood.
Come on.
What are we doing here? Comstock's dead. We can just go on with our lives. You don't need
Dead?
to...
You mean like Chen Lin? Like Lady Comstock? No. He is alive in a million worlds. It's not over because the Prophet is dead. It will only be over when he never even lived in the first place.
Hey. Hey, the deal's off, you hear me?
Unstable.
The deal is off! Give her back! Give her back!
Fine, are you mad?
Give her back, you son of a bitch!
It's ready! Go!
No!
Shut down the machine!
No!
Shut it down! Shut down the machine! Now do it!
Give me back my daughter! No!
Bring Us the Girl and Wipe Away the Debt was never about retrieving Elizabeth from Columbia. It was about selling his daughter to Comstock to pay off his gambling debts. The universe that Comstock pulled Elizabeth from was Booker's. Elizabeth isn't Elizabeth at all. Her name is Anna DeWitt. A.D. But Booker got cold feet. Trying to go back on the deal and retrieve his daughter, Anna's finger gets cut off when the portal between universes closes on her. A small part of her now exists in a different world than the rest of her, which Rosalind Lutece theorized in an earlier Voxophone could explain her abilities.
What makes the girl different? I suspect it has less to do with what she is, and rather more with what she is not. A small part of her remains from where she came. It would seem the universe does not like its peas mixed with its porridge.
Years later, Robert Lutece returned to Booker after his betrayal at the hands of Comstock, offering him the chance to be back with his daughter. So the Luteces pulled him into the Comstock Columbia reality. Now think back once again to that quote at the very beginning of the game. The mind of the subject will desperately struggle to create memories where none exist. When Booker entered this reality, he wasn't supposed to be in this universe and therefore didn't have any memories of his life here. So his mind desperately struggled to create memories where none existed. It latched onto the phrase most closely associated with both Anna and the Luteces.
Wipe away the debt. Bring us the girl. Wipe away the debt.
See? He's starting to put his story together.
Wipe away.
You're quite fond of this theory of yours.
He's manufacturing new memories from his old ones.
Well, the brain adapts.
I should know. I lived it.
Where that once meant, sell us your daughter and we'll pay off your debts, Booker's mind now fabricates a new and false pretense. As the Luteces say, he starts putting his story together. Bring this girl Elizabeth from Columbia to New York for the client, and they'll wipe away your gambling debt.
Booker, wake up. This is where it started.
This is where it started indeed. This moment, Robert pulling Booker into Comstock's universe, happens only a few minutes before the start of the game. Booker, now knowing the truth, resolves to find Comstock as an infant and kill him before any of his life plays out. Columbia, the Lutece tears, buying Anna from Booker, all of it. He's gonna smother him in his crib. He once again opens a lighthouse door and we're back at the baptism.
Are you ready to be born again?
Why are we back here?
This isn't the same place, Booker.
Of course it is. I remember.
Are you ready to leave behind all that has gone before? Wipe the slate clean.
Who are you?
You chose to walk away, but in other oceans, you didn't. You took the baptism. You were born again as a different man. It all has to end, to have never started. Not just in this world, but in all of ours.
Smother him in the crib.
Smother. Before the choice is made. Before you are reborn.
And what name shall you take, my son?
He's Zachary Comstock. He's Booker DeWitt.
No. And both.
Booker DeWitt is a man of his word. If you're at all confused by this ending, that makes sense. Multiverse shit gets tricky, and although multiversal storytelling is commonplace by today's standards, Bioshock Infinite was really ahead of the curve by using it as a storytelling device back in 2013. But I'll try to explain it the best I understand it. Booker lived a unilateral, linear life up until the baptism. He's always a participant in the Wounded Knee Massacre. He's always haunted by his actions. This is a constant in every universe. But it's the baptism that's the variable that sets the entire plot in motion. In some universes, he chooses to accept being born anew, taking on the name Zachary Hale Comstock, founding the flying city of Columbia alongside the Lutesses, and becoming a bigoted, murderous religious zealot. In other universes, he denies the baptism, joins the Pinkertons, falls into gambling and alcoholism, and sells his daughter to pay off his debts. This baptism is a variable and the point of divergence in his timeline. By traveling with Elizabeth to this divergence point, ending his life and stopping that variable from ever being an option in the first place, he is, for all intents and purposes, smothering Comstock in the crib. That's the point where Comstock would have been born, but now, his existence is no longer possible. And how do we know it worked? Because we witnessed the Elizabeths one by one disappearing. Without Booker selling his infant daughter to Comstock, the baby Anna never would have lost her finger in the portal and existed in two realities. She never would have gotten her powers and thus couldn't exist in this junction point in Booker's history. They disappeared because now they never existed in the first place. But that begs the question, if now Comstock never existed in the first place and wasn't around, isn't around, will never be around to buy the infant Anna from Booker, then how is main timeline Booker's life retroactively, actively, and proactively affected by this change? Well, if you sit through the credits, we get this short scene. We're now back in 1893, 19 years before the start of the game. Booker is still a drinker, a gambler, a Pinkerton, but he still has Anna, and this time there won't be a mysterious man coming to make him an offer. And that's the happiest ending a man like Booker can get.
Is that you?
I really struggle to find the correct way to put my feelings about Bioshock Infinite into words. I guess in short, the best way to do so would to just say that Bioshock Infinite really deserves its flowers. This is a fantastic game, and the highest praise I can give it is to say that it deserves the title of Bioshock. It's more than a worthy successor to the first two games in the series. It's clear that the developers weren't interested in taking the easy route. They didn't just stick to what they knew worked in the franchise, what they knew everybody loved, when they easily could have. Rapture, Big Daddies, dark, wet, dank corridors, action-oriented gameplay with an unmistakably horror-influenced atmosphere. No, they went the hard route, asking themselves not what aspects of Bioshock do people love, but rather, why do people love those aspects? Then used those answers to subvert the expectations of what Bioshock is and create a new installment from the ground up. Dark and moody? How about bright and beautiful? A destroyed city in the ocean? How about a seemingly thriving utopia in the sky? And hiding the extent of its relation to the previous games in the franchise in plain sight and only giving the players breadcrumbs of information to connect the dots is just genius. Repeat playthroughs to find all the nuggets of foreshadowing is so rewarding. And even then, the information that's provided makes you question whether the game even is related to the other games in the series, or if you, the player, simply have expectations as to what a sequel has to include, has to be. Bioshock has always been a series that leans into the meta-commentary of both what it means to be a video game and what it means to play a video game. And Bioshock Infinite doesn't just rehash this, it remixes it. But even stepping away from the meta-narrative and the story of the game, there are unbelievable amounts of visceral and poignant moments throughout the journey. Spectacles that make you step back and say, holy shit, this is what gaming can be. This is what happens when the developers really, truly care. This is how gaming can affect me. This is a piece of art. Bioshock Infinite is a perfect game. But there are aspects of this game that feel as though they were an afterthought. We're told both through dialogue and environmental storytelling that Vigors are an incredibly important part of this world. They were pulled in from Bioshock's prime Rapture universe and repurposed by Fink to not only provide ease to the typical citizen's life, but to be a central functioning aspect of Columbia as a city. And for the first third of the game, we're shown this as well. But it's very quickly abandoned, with Vigor acquisition going from we need this to progress through the city and the story because it serves an important narrative function, to, oh shit, cool, a new Vigor was just kind of sitting there waiting for us, in the dirt. Neat. Combat in this game feels really great, but I can definitely see some people growing frustrated with the repetitious gameplay. The game in its entirety does essentially boil down to walk to a new area, shooting gallery, continue walking, another shooting gallery, cutscene. Now, I didn't personally feel this way because the campaign isn't terribly long. I finished the entire game in about 10 or 11 hours, but still, if someone were to complain about that, I would consider it valid. And this is certainly not helped by the fact that in true Bioshock fashion, boss battles are practically non-existent. The wave defense boss fights are fun, and did get very challenging towards the end of the game, especially on hard mode. Quick thinking and the utilization of every tool in your arsenal is a must during these sections, but it's no replacement for a well thought out, challenging boss. Now, the story. Aside from the repetitive gameplay, the story has been one of the most polarizing aspects of Bioshock Infinite, and I think why certain subsects of the internet have turned against the game in the last 12 years since its release. Multiversal stories are a slippery slope. It's a whole ass can of worms when you start introducing time travel, jumping into different dimensions, quantum mechanics, basically what the entire story deals with. And the internet, especially in a day and age like now where multiversal stories are way more commonplace, loves poking holes in the logic of these types of stories. Yes, if you look closely enough at multiversal shenanigans and cause and effect and branching timelines, you will come to the conclusion that this shit does not hold up to close scrutiny. It's exactly why a lot of these stories have learned that the best way to deal with this problem is to just tell the audiences not to think about it.
I suggest you don't worry about this sort of thing and just enjoy yourself. That goes for you all, too.
I don't want to talk about time travel shit. Because if we start talking about it, then we're going to be here all day talking about it, making diagrams with straws.
But I admire the fact that Bioshock Infinite doesn't just tell you not to think about it. It dives in head first and does try to provide as much logic as a bunch of video game screenwriters can provide. And they do a good enough job at it for it to make at least a little bit of sense within the rules that the world itself sets up. I appreciate that. Because at the end of the day, the game isn't about the multiverse or the Lutece tears or any of the sci-fi shit that they get into. It's about telling the story of Booker and Elizabeth, and the game does do that. It tells a really fantastic story, full of characters that force you to fall in love with them, to be interested in them, or to hate them. The characters are easily the best part of the game. And when you stop trying to poke holes in the logic of a video game's multiverse, you'll realize that it was never the point. The multiverse is a plot device, just like Bioshock's flying and underwater cities, which, by the way, you don't really hear people complain about the lack of logic of. I just think people who are focusing on how the story's use of the multiverse doesn't really make sense are focusing on the wrong thing. But even with the story, good as it may be, I do have my complaints. A lot of the major conflicts aren't resolved by Booker and Elizabeth, or by anyone really. We just enter a new universe where those problems don't exist anymore. And I think that's weak conflict resolution from a storytelling perspective. It feels like the devs wrote themselves into a corner and ass-pulled the resolution. And then they went into a different dimension where they didn't have to deal with this problem anymore, so the story can continue uninterrupted. And when the main characters can basically just fairy godparent wish their way out of the conflict, it lowers the stakes by a non-negligible amount. But even with those flaws, Bioshock Infinite really is a 10 out of 10 game. In a franchise known for producing works of art and for demonstrating to players and the video game industry as a whole what video games as a medium can be capable of, it's a worthy installment and a beautiful swan song for the franchise. Bioshock Infinite is a perfect game, but it is still flawed, as everything is. Nothing is perfect, but god damn, it got close. Close enough to count. And if you haven't played Bioshock Infinite yet, by all means, go and play it. It's worth your time. I know this was a really long one, and for those who stuck around, and even those that didn't, thank you so much for watching. It was so much fun to make, but goddamn, it was a lot of work. As always, good night and good luck. Ta.